Part 314. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3145. Ding Dong. Jia Yan snapped his fingers and chuckled, "Thunder Master, you can understand it, just like your thunder path. Do you dare to say that a strong thunder attribute person can read your thunder and lightning path? Is it power? Everyone has their own way. Even if they seem similar, the actual effects are far different. This has nothing to do with the skills between me and that strong person in the subspace. It's just because he and I are on this path. Up, the way of walking is just different." This is a succinct explanation, and the people in the other world are indeed at a level where they are blind to the subspace. The figure behind the thunder and lightning seemed to be silent. In addition to hearing Jia Yan's talk, he also noticed the other person's attitude towards him. He firmly believed that a weak person could not have such an attitude towards a strong person. That is to say, the traitor in front of him either has the means or ability, or there is someone similar to himself behind him. Thinking of this, Master Lei paused and said, "Okay, next, it's time to finalize the general framework of our business." Boom. When Lei Master said this directly in front of everyone without communicating through sound transmission, there was a sensation on the scene. In an instant, everyone stood up and looked towards Jia Yan with burning eyes. "I am the Spear Master's apprentice, specifically responsible for this transaction. I am the third elder of Shanglin section. I am Dama, the foreign consul." Everyone gathered around, and the whispering and harmonious exchange just now seemed like an illusion. They were waiting for Master Lei to say a word. After all, among everyone present, only Lei Master has the right to make the decision. After opening up the transaction, they immediately had a place to use. Everyone wants a piece of the pie. Even Lei Master felt helpless towards these forces present. It's not that force is not worth enough. But each force has a strong base, either through friendly relations, subordinates to other masters, or from the royal family. Moreover, the Lei Master lineage had been prepared for this situation for a long time. Their family could not afford to eat everything, so they had to share part of the profits for this matter. They just have to hold on to the biggest benefits. So Master Lei watched with cold eyes. "Hello, this is an assassin from the galaxy. It turns out that you are the supplier of Fengs and Dao Dan last time. No wonder the taste and improvement level are so excellent. Please bear with me in the future. Hello. The black god Jia Yan is worthy of being a man who once made his own way in the world of creation." He dealt with it calmly and quickly found his position. Master Lei's cold look also hinted at several things to him. That's the side of the dynasty, which must have done countless preliminary work. Just like he built a huge trade channel area outside. And because there are conflicts within the dynasty, the dangers and overt and covert struggles may be even more exaggerated than the construction of Jia Yan Yitang. At this time, everyone who can appear at this banquet is probably not simple. Jia Yan was not frightened by the scene at that time. "I chatted with everyone and gave words that seemed to be beneficial, but actually looking back, I didn't give them anything." Master Lei, who had a cold face at first, gradually felt the peaceful mood amidst the thunder and lightning. He could see that Jia Yan had not really lost his right to speak due to the battle. Instead, he firmly guarded his main trading relationship with him. There were many issues related to the core of the transaction. This assassin of the insignificant human race even said, "This matter will be discussed with Master Lei later." The romance of Fairywood. As a result, his eyes when looking at Jia Yan became much softer. The overall interests of Lei Shi's lineage were preserved. And Jia Yan's all-round and exquisite social skills also made everyone feel at ease, and they even saw some possibilities of getting closer to this person in the future. For example, in this trading area, the little guy from the Milky Way is very trustworthy and unwilling to abandon the Lei Master lineage. What about another place? No one said that this assassin couldn't change places and continue to trade with others, right? None of the lay master lineage dared to directly monopolize this area, otherwise it would be too involved. That night, big news broke throughout Xiancheng. It turns out that the lay master in the city is not the only noble person. He is one of the nobles. Although he is the most noble person, at the social occasion of the city lord's palace banquet that day, there were no less than dozens of middle and high-level people from the dynasty. It can be said to be a gathering of stars. The people in Xiancheng just felt a little dreamy. However, those who are keen can feel some changes. Many merchants and high-ranking officials are vaguely looking for connections and exploring the reasons. It has to be said that locals still have an advantage. Many people directly learned part of the content. Smart guys have been acquiring logistics and trade-related industries in Xiancheng for several days. Many people have also intervened in matters related to hotels and trade customs clearance. They all could foresee that with the so-called galaxy commerce joining the dynasty, Xiancheng would rise to the sky. Master Lei, see you later. It is a great honor to meet Mr. Assassin. I look forward to seeing you next time. Don't send me away, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. In the middle of the night, Jia Yan flashed into the subspace and left the gate of the city lord's mansion instantly in full view of everyone. With smiles on their faces, more than half of the people who were extremely enthusiastic to see them off suddenly had their work-like smiles fade away and became either brooding, cold, or thoughtful. Everyone, how are you? Master Lei looked into the distance silently. With his strength, he has been working hard to study subspace recently. Although he has not gained much, he can still vaguely detect the direction in which the person left. Someone spoke. Master Lei, you, Master Lei, have the final say on this matter. Outsiders cannot be trusted, but our dynasty is in urgent need of that so-called Milky Way thing, so it is better to leave it alone. Although it's not right to seek skin from a tiger, from what I see, he doesn't seem like someone who wants to cause ill will towards our dynasty. I'm afraid he is indeed a first-class businessman. Master Lei, if he is honest in business, we will be honest with him, and the share of the transaction will be as agreed upon before. Our Great Seal Research Institute has been studying the so-called subspace for a long time. As long as there is progress, we can replace this person, and even, lead our dynasty to supreme glory and enter the galaxy. Master Lei nodded. The high-ranking forces behind this group all belong to the same force, but their prior requirement for forming an alliance with the Lei Master is that they must be dominated by the Lei Master lineage. The mysterious and small human race in the Milky Way galaxy is an alien species. They are not as friendly as they appear. It is not impossible to draw swords against each other in the future. That's all, that's it for the time being. There will be a new round of transactions in 2 days. Once you have established your own caravan, let your subordinates handle the details of the division. I believe Master Lei will not let us suffer. Puff. Subspace cracks. Jia Yan thoughtfully returned to the Chamber of Commerce station arranged for them by Xiancheng. Lord Assassin. 2 young Earthlings walked out. Naturally, they couldn't reveal Jia Yan's true identity, so they always called him Assassin. Well, the goods will be shipped from the mountains and forests tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. You are responsible for counting them. It may be very busy after that. I hope you won't make any mistakes in the busy process. We must work hard. The two nodded quickly. They are also fully aware of the dangers of this matter. The dynasty, which seems to be doing friendly business, can't really be so honest. The so-called trade terms contracts are nothing more than things meant to be damaged. As long as you are not strong enough and someone finds out your true nature, you will be slaughtered. And the next handover will definitely be about setting unified standards in the future. If they give in one step, they will give in step by step in the future. Bear. Very good. You and I are indeed a match made in heaven. In the mountains and forests. The two figures seemed to be separated from each other, and their strength increased greatly after joining forces. Jia Yan silently stared at the two figures, nodded and asked them to step aside and let other strong men come on. It has to be said that every one of these young masters sent in from abroad is of good quality. At least in terms of strength, it is more than one level better than the talents from Earth who come in through the back door. The difference is huge. They are all mid to high level stars. And extremely talented. After 2 or 3 days of guidance, there was a lot of progress. Next, you will serve as a bodyguard. Although it is just a show on the surface, there will definitely be many people secretly testing you. Don't underestimate the world here. The skills of the cosmic powerhouses they and I have each have their own advantages. Yes. All the staff nodded hurriedly. Then let's go. This area of the mountain forest has long been developed by Jia Yan and others. The previous FEO ship already carried a lot of equipment, and since everyone was strong, it was very easy to develop the forest. Even a giant tree that is 10,000 kilometers high cannot be handled by ordinary people. Jia Yan went over and chopped millions of feet with a stern look, and he fell to the ground with a crash. Yes, just a few million feet. After all, they are trees with a height similar to that of the earth, and their hardness is even more astonishing. It took Jia Yan a whole night, and the whole forest resounded throughout the night. After it falls, no other wood is needed, and the tree is enough for everyone. Soon huge warehouses were built. That is a warehouse covering tens of thousands of kilometers. Next, we will build 5 such warehouses in nearby areas, virtual and real. Together with the technological equipment we brought from the galaxy, we can ensure that everything is foolproof. Jia Yan has long thought about how to take good security measures in this warehouse. Generally speaking, he is planning to have the goods delivered directly to the customer to reduce the risk in his own hands, but in fact it is absolutely impossible to do so just right. There will always be a large amount of goods piled up in his hands. This gave the powerful men of the dynasty an opportunity to take advantage of. Driven by huge interests, attackers are bound to exist. Just what to do with it when you see it, and whether you can save the thing. Secondly, we need to process the units. The materials we brought are not liked by the imperial people, so targeted improvements are necessary. Just like Coca-Cola and other food products, when they enter major countries on the earth, they will be modified to suit local tastes. Jia Yan is doing the same. The most basic point is to combine the originally small lump of galactic materials with some edible materials in the mountains and forests, and package them into huge resources. Otherwise, those giants who are tens of thousands of kilometers away will be disgusted. In this way, there must be a nutrition department, a catering department, a promotion department, and a research and development department. Thinking of this, Jia Yan had a headache. But he decided on this matter himself and pushed it forward until now. He couldn't give up halfway. He might be picked off by others. He didn't want to lose the profit and be taken advantage of by other subspace talents. That's right. Even if there is no subspace powerhouse alongside him in the entire galaxy now, what will happen in a few decades? Decades later, it is destined that there will be a domain lord level subspace that can enter the other world through the closest point. Well, by the way, in this way, we must also establish a force that can patrol and warn this subspace area. Jia Yan began to think more and more deeply. As time goes by. 3 days later, the official trading day came. The entire Xiancheng was already overcrowded. The crowd seemed to be conjured out of thin air. The residents of Xiancheng all seemed to be having a dream. Inexplicably, as soon as I got up in the morning, there were countless new faces on the street. And most of these new faces are extremely powerful. Even if he is not strong, he must be talented in some aspects. As a result, the atmosphere in the entire Xiancheng suddenly changed. It has a bit of a big city feel. Even commodity prices have risen by several percent in a short period of time, causing the people at the bottom to complain endlessly. But smart people have long been weak in counting money. Even the most humble people at the bottom can make their first fortune if they are smart and turn their homes into B/U0026BS for so-called businessmen who have no place to live. It is said that this time it is because there are some visitors from outside the world doing business in our Xiancheng. Huh? What are the aliens? Didn't you grow up? They are those alien visitors. Legend has it that the alien visitor opened a hole in Xiancheng, and a large amount of treasure flew out, and he used it to trade with our dynasty. Really or not, where is the hole? If we find it, wouldn't we make a fortune? Are you stupid? If it was so easy to find him, would the dynasty still trade with him? Am I stupid? You are stupid. When I get back, I will turn my home into a hotel and make money from him. Throughout Xiancheng, there are rumors about the sudden increase in the number of outsiders. Please is already flying all over the sky. The facts spread quickly. Although they are still a little different from the real situation, they are still similar. The whole Xiancheng was boiling. A large number of giant creatures in strange costumes and shapes were walking around. Many so-called chambers of commerce have sprung up and opened their doors in the morning. Inexplicably, the big man whose name he seemed to have heard but not heard was still cutting the ribbon for one store 10 minutes ago, and was already grinning widely at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for another store 10 minutes later. Even the residents of Xiancheng had to be cautious when going out, suspecting that this was no longer their Xiancheng. Coming. Just when everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves, but amid actual expectations and depression, someone's eyes lit up. Poof. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3146. Space cracks. The members of the team looked small, but in fact they walked out of the space with sharp eyes and high vigilance. Here. It's really scary. Their eyes became dangerous. Although Xiancheng is an ordinary city in this world, but for foreign life forms in the Milky Way, the level of strength here is already extremely high and unimaginably high. The special visitors are the so-called geniuses from around the divine realm. They may not have seen as many galaxy-level powerhouses in their lifetime as they have seen in just a few moments after leaving the subspace. Are these the so-called visitors from outer space? It's not that bad. Let them escort the goods. Even if we start robbing them, they won't be able to resist. Speak down, there are Xiancheng patrols watching over there. The people were talking a lot. The tallest building in the city lord's mansion. The tall figure emitting the power of thunder and lightning was followed by many senior officials including disciples. Is this the assassin's escort team? It's too weak. Master Lei, are we waiting for? The arm wrapped around Lei Deng waved it calmly. No, the strength of the opponent does not lie in the team under his command, but in the ability he has. There is no so-called subspace power. We will wait until we kill them. More people can't get more. Yes. The speaker retreated. But Master Lei murmured softly, it's really similar. Feeling the cracked subspace, he felt that behind the subspace, there was a power that even he was afraid of, vaguely permeating the air. There was a vague idea telling him. The person behind the transport team who opened the subspace this time is no longer the so-called assassin. It was the so-called region lord's lower level that he had been tracking nearby. It has been a long time since we fought with that guy. I wonder if he has recovered as before? If we fight again, who will win and who will lose? Lightning crackled. But as the subspace cracked and disappeared, this fighting spirit quickly disappeared. As a top expert, he knows certain things and needs to assess the situation. If you want to fight that guy again, you will destroy your current interests. The next transaction will probably add endless strength to his Thunder Master lineage out of thin air. Even he himself, after intercepting a large amount of star core power, will also get a long-awaited strength improvement from it. So he was not prepared to expose the truth. I won't fight with that guy again. I'm afraid this guy is testing me with this. I don't believe him. He doesn't know if I can feel his power. Master Lei snorted coldly, and in the flash of lightning, the person disappeared into the distance in the sky like a bolt of lightning. Just follow the previous transaction and trade with the visitors from outside. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Since you can't fight, then you can't see it but keep it out of sight. Ah, why did Master Lei leave? No need to shout. Master Lei left immediately. He has his own reasons. However, without Master Lei to take care of the next goods, I am afraid that I will need to intervene. That's right, Master Lei has delegated power to us. Let's go, we will mediate in person. The senior executive's eyes lit up. Isn't it because they were restricted by the Lei Master here, because the Lei Master lineage prepared to set the general rules for the future in the initial transaction? But Master Lei left. The restrictive power of the Thunder Master lineage here was suddenly greatly reduced. They also have the opportunity to go down and make rules. Deep in subspace, the giant Mosquito was looking at the departing Thunder and Lightning figure with a faint look. Master Lei, you can bear it? This test is considered a great success. Jia Yan deliberately leaked his breath so that the other party could sense it. He didn't believe that as a being who cultivated Tao power and reached an extreme state, he would not be able to feel the aura of his former opponent. After all, the so-called Tao power is to find a new way in fine control, which is completely different from the cultivation techniques of the Milky Way and the universe. And the other party's behavior was to let him show up. This shows that the other party's attitude is that they don't care about the previous grudges and only want the benefits of success. Very smart. Jia Yan smiled. It shows that at this point, the two of them have a certain tacit understanding of turning enemies into friends. Of course, he can't reappear under the blue sky and white sun. Otherwise, Master Lei, who was the top expert in the dynasty, would still have to attack him under pressure. And him leaving can be regarded as a deliberate statement. In this way, the benefits of Lei Master's lineage can be given more, so that he can be pulled into the chariot here. Jia Yan spread out an aura that only belonged to the cultivation path of the universe. The traders outside immediately understood. Kurakami is also busy. The area where the Black God's clone lived was recently forcibly expropriated by the city lord's palace and became a residence exclusively for Black God Jia Yan to live alone. Many people come to visit me all day long. There was an endless stream. Today, he was at the entrance of the Chamber of Commerce and began to receive guests from powerful forces. Complete the assigned goods and transaction contents in front of their door. Many details of the rules were decided for the second time today. For example, the order before and after transactions, and product quality. These are said to have been decided long ago and can be implemented into the goods. There is bound to be a lot of room for manipulation. This batch of goods from our Chamber of Commerce seems to be inferior to that of the Dynasty Law Enforcement Team, right? Sorry, all products in the galaxy are only good and bad. Your Chamber of Commerce may be unlucky. How about you come back next time? No, just this batch is ready. The person in charge of a large Chamber of Commerce led his goods away with an ugly expression. The people below were moved in their hearts. That Chamber of Commerce was previously a staunch devouring faction, meaning it tried its best to devour all the merchants in the galaxy. Their proposal was very radical, but in the end they had to give up because only the Milky Way side controlled the trade route, but their speech was always hawkish. The Milky Way is taking revenge. Everyone understands. The attitude of those who took over the work later was even better. Cars and horses were bustling at the entrance of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in the Milky Way, and cart after cart of goods were transported out of the Chamber of Commerce. Go on your way. Guest number 25, please come to this window. Many advanced trading strategies in the galaxy have also been implemented in this Chamber of Commerce area. The products recorded in the book are categorized item by item, very scientifically, and there are almost no mistakes. In this galaxy, inheritance has a unique charm. Yes, it's hard for me to see such a well-founded advance and retreat for the imperial dynasty. The dynasty was in chaos for more than a day or two. What's more, in a place where the middle and high-level leaders of so many forces gather, if there is no contradiction or conflict, it will give face to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Unexpectedly, they used unique management methods to make everyone feel at home. Many senior executives see a difference. But this difference has nothing to do with strength. Weak is really weak. I just saw a star core appear, and I almost couldn't help but take action. There is a buyer for that. If you want to take action, you are seeking death. Humph, if the Milky Way didn't control the trading channels, how could there be so many masters in my dynasty being restrained by these little guys? Seeing that the so-called Galaxy Chamber of Commerce finally came forward to solicit customers, but they were just a group of small creatures whose strength might not be comparable to that of the ordinary residents of Xiancheng, many people's thoughts were moved again. But in the end, he was shocked by the passage controlled by the Milky Way. If they really take action and break the rules, not only will they lose the possibility of trading with each other in the future, but they will even offend many powerful forces in the dynasty who are willing to do serious business with the galaxy. The gain outweighs the loss. Just wait, if the Milky Way is really so weak, it will one day be wiped out by the forces of my dynasty. Yes, they can travel through the so-called subspace. Our dynasty is full of talents. It is impossible for no one to make a breakthrough. When the time comes, The first day of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce Development and Trading Day was quite lively. But there are more undercurrents like the above conversation. The more people coming from the galaxy, the more people see the weakness of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Nowadays, because the passage is in the hands of the other party, many people are afraid of it. But with the confidence of the people of the imperial dynasty, they believed that one day the results of this kind of technology could be achieved. The first one to be swallowed by that time is destined to be the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. It's really all sold out. That's a product formula we specially researched for the imperial dynasty, and they actually said it was good. Someone secretly stuffed me a gift just now. They look down on our discipline. Hee, you underestimated the gift just now. I read it according to the transaction list. It is something comparable to a secondary star core. If you get it, you can save 100 years of hard work. What, 100 years is nothing. As long as you work hard, you can't treat me badly. People in the dynasty were far from the only ones who felt the impact. The young talents sent by various trade channel forces who came here on business also experienced the extremely shocking atmosphere of another world. Not to mention those life forms and buildings that have been enlarged countless times. Even the various cultivation resources that they had never heard of, but with unique effects, gave them a new perspective and made them salivate. Fortunately, the training in the galaxy and the sense of crisis in another world made them give up the act of enriching themselves. You did well on the first day. Suddenly a voice sounded. I've met Senior. Black God Jiayanchi suddenly came into everyone's sight, making all the young talents bow in silence. They finally knew that the world they and others came to this time contained huge benefits. The risks are high, but the rewards in the future will definitely not be small. Although there are still many flaws, the flaws cannot be concealed. Some people have unclean hands and feet. Don't think I don't notice it, but I remember that this is your first offense. Take care of things by yourself and don't do it again. Do you understand my point? Jia Yan's eyes sternly glanced at two people in the crowd, who trembled violently, and then lowered their heads with coldness all over their bodies. They are destined to be tempted when they first arrive. There will always be one or two people who take risks. But it was not easy for Jia Yanyan to give someone away, so he chose to warn. If someone does it again next time, he will never allow it. See? That's the man of the galaxy. I saw it. Within the city lord's palace, a figure pulled the stumbling giant creature to the dungeon of the city lord's mansion. The tall guy's body, shrouded in a huge cloak, was actually tightly shackled. Under his hat like a hat, his face was covered with scars. The person pulling him was the second disciple from the Thunder Master lineage. How? The second disciple smiled jokingly and handcuffed the shackles to the lock in the dungeon. The tall creature knelt down directly. As far as the escorts are concerned, their strength is very average. Needless to say, they can fight against the masters of the noble dynasty. Even villains or ordinary people in the city can fight against them. Is that really the case? The second disciple's eyes were clear. They are afraid that the so-called people from the Milky Way cultivate things that are very different from them. They may not seem to be strong, but in reality they are as strong as the sky. Did you lie to me? The second disciple kicked the opponent. Don't dare. The tall figure trembled all over, and then said tremblingly for a moment, I am from the large Magellanic Cloud, which is near the Milky Way. I can't say that I know the Milky Way extremely well, but I also have some insights. Those people from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce are indeed very weak. Although there are still many flaws, the flaws cannot be concealed. Some people have unclean hands and feet. Don't think I don't notice it, but I remember that this is your first offense. Take care of things by yourself and don't do it again. Times, do you understand my point? Jia Yan's eyes sternly glanced at two people in the crowd, who trembled violently, and then lowered their heads with coldness all over their bodies. They are destined to be tempted when they first arrive. There will always be one or two people who take risks. But it was not easy for Jia Yanyan to give someone away, so he chose to warn. If someone does it again next time, he will never allow it. See? That's the man of the galaxy. I saw it. Within the city lord's palace, a figure pulled the stumbling giant creature to the dungeon of the city lord's mansion. The tall guy's body, shrouded in a huge cloak, was actually tightly shackled. Under his hat like a hat, his face was covered with scars. The person pulling him was the second disciple from the Thunder Master lineage. How? The second disciple smiled jokingly and put the shackles on the lock in the dungeon. The tall creature knelt down directly. As far as the escorts are concerned, their strength is very average. Needless to say, they can fight against the masters of the noble dynasty. Even villains or ordinary people in the city can fight against them. Is that really the case? The second disciple's eyes were clear. They are afraid that the so-called people from the Milky Way cultivate things that are very different from them. They may not seem to be strong, but in reality they are as strong as the sky. Did you lie to me? The second disciple kicked the opponent. Don't dare. The tall figure trembled all over, and then said tremblingly for a moment, I am from the large Magellanic Cloud, which is near the Milky Way. I can't say that I have an extreme understanding of the Milky Way, but I do have some insights. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3147. The giant creature smiled ingratiatingly. But there was also a look of expectation in his eyes. Large Magellanic organisms, to the Milky Way. Really not a good impression. It is said that in this imperial area, the Ley Master lineage has captured many visitors from outside the world. Oh? Really? How did you find out about this? A villain has his own villain's methods and ways. Your information is very useful. You will be closely responsible for this matter in the future. Please step aside for now. Yes. In the semi-public residence of the Black God, Jia Yan once again received a report from the small creature who was familiar with Xiancheng and other cities. The information obtained this time made Jia Yan's heart tremble. The lay master lineage came to this area specifically to inspect the extraterrestrial visitors. But I didn't expect that in just a short time, I would have gained a lot. As they arrest more and more so-called visitors from outer space, they will also have more and more exposure to the outside universe and even the Milky Way. It will be difficult for me to control the variables that will arise. He sighed and shook his head. The other world seems to have started friendly transactions and contacts with him. But there are many uncertainties in this process. Just because he can make the first pot of gold does not mean that he will be kinder to the Milky Way when swords are facing each other in the future. As proud as I am now, I am afraid I will shed more tears when encountering war in the future. It is wrong to have expectations for the dynasty. Their strength is indeed good, and the world in this world is not limited to the dynasty. Jia Yan almost understood the composition and general strength of the dynasty. But he is far from understanding how the entire world is structured. What is the strength of external forces? All this, he was still blind. So, we must continue to expand the scope of intelligence. Jia Yan set a new policy. Don't worry that this is what the clone is thinking, the real body won't be able to operate it. In fact, as long as the two come into contact, the clone's thoughts and memories will be shared with the real body, and conversely, the clone on the real body will also obtain the information. The third day of trading begins. The chaotic initial transaction finally gradually became stable and orderly. However, the number of outsiders in Xiancheng has not decreased. Many of them are watching with eager eyes, while others are trying their best to make a fortune. With such a large-scale operation, they can still eat even a little bit of soup from the big forces. This is also true. Certain major forces, during the initial stages of transportation, found that their caravans were not suitable for transporting certain low-value resources, so they adopted an auction to sell some of the galaxy's resources. If they throw something they don't like outside, it will be a treasure that can be snatched away. In addition, the wealthy people of the dynasty had a strong sense of curiosity about galactic goods, so this auction fetched an extremely expensive price. Other major forces saw the profits, so they all released some less important materials for auction. As a result, in the first week after the trade began, Suanken's trade, which was supposed to be monopolized by several official forces, gradually developed a tendency to flow into the private sector. Xiancheng was also brought to a very high status, and there were many business trips. The Lord of Xiancheng woke up laughing several times from his dreams. His promotion had been arranged for a long time, but the city lord thought about it a few times and decided to stay in Xiancheng longer on the grounds that he had been accustomed to Xiancheng for decades. This is to search for more benefits, and at the same time to make more political achievements in the rising Xiancheng before leaving. See, things are on the right track. Jia Yan, on the other hand, breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, he once again stepped out of the outside world and brought with him a person in charge of business affairs, the Empress of the Divine Realm. He was the one who was almost killed by Jia Yan that day. After all, Jia Yan is neither professional nor patient when it comes to managing mundane things. Rather than taking control of these things, it is better to leave them to more professionals. Anyway, he only needs to firmly control the entire trade channel in his own hands. In this way, he will not be afraid of any evil practices in the divine realm. It has to be said that the Empress of the Divine Realm is worthy of being in charge of a large territory of the Divine Realm. After getting the approval of the Goddess Lord, she worked diligently and quickly straightened out the mess that Jia Yan had left to her, and gradually improved the situation. The trade between the two worlds has become more lively and dramatic. This is already the 10th day after the first day of trading. From that day on, Jia Yan officially lived in seclusion behind the scenes. Even the clone assassin only showed up at the most critical moments. Even when contacting Xiancheng and Lei Shi, the goddess emperor was asked to come forward. After all, Jia Yan is a strong man. Coming to the other world is more about increasing your strength. As for transactions and commerce, they only serve cultivation. Many books and basic secrets about Dao Li have been obtained these days. Deep inside one of the emergency mountain forest bases, the giant mosquito crawls. His eyes were thoughtful. He is ready to continue to improve his strength. Through trade channels, many Taoist mines were obtained. Although he can only get a part of it, as long as the initial trade problem is solved, in the future, he can get a steady stream of local cultivation resources such as Taoist hearts and other worlds just by hiding. For him, it is a very cost-effective deal. 10 Taoist hearts were piled beside him. But he didn't take action directly. Because in addition to Dao Xin, the expansion of trade channels also gave Jia Yan a deep grasp of many cultivation resources from the other world. Among them are cultivation techniques and secrets. He can be regarded as going from the initial dull absorption to the formal in-depth study of the monasticism model in the other world. Tao, disorder and chaos. It's the beginning of everything. He opened a most basic book called Daowen. Many cultivators in this world have a copy. Although there may be slight differences in each place due to geographical differences, the difference is not bad. It can be said that it is an enlightenment for many people to enter Taoism. Jia Yan watched a lot. No matter how you say it, he is also the top powerhouse in the galaxy. At this moment, combined with the insights that naturally arose after he devoured so many Tao hearts, he quickly gained a lot of insights and understanding of the words on the Tao source. Getting started is pretty simple. But what he lacks is this kind of introduction. I see. To use an analogy, Dao power is relatively abundant in this world, so there are many practitioners and the harvest is greater. Over there in the Milky Way, the cosmic power is relatively powerful. Although Dao power cannot be said to be absent, compared to the other world it's definitely a world of difference. Jia Yan understood. Taoist power and what they call cosmic power in the outside world are, in fact, very likely to be extremely related powers. However, due to different cultivation methods, the styles of cultivators are very different. Contrary to the generally huge creatures in this world, Dao power pays attention to subtle operations, and the most important thing is understanding. Those with strong understanding will have stronger qualifications. Jia Yan watched and nodded from time to time. As he read, deep in his mind, the Tao power that was suppressed inside the body with brute force gradually became loose because he had swallowed up a lot of Tao heart and could not digest it. The first thing he did was to release part of the Tao power, and then find a way from basic books such as Tao Yuan to let them gradually integrate into the mosquito's body in a certain meridian operation method. This process, without books for him, would definitely be blind. Before obtaining this information, if Jia Yan dared to take action, his meridians would definitely be broken by Taoist power, and serious injury would be inevitable. Fortunately, now that he was enlightened, he gradually relaxed his emotions, and the power that had been hidden for a long time was slowly integrated into his own power system. Jia Yan doesn't want any advanced Taoist cultivation skills. Because essentially, he is not a monk at all. They were just outsiders who bit off more than they could chew and devoured too much of the power of the Taoist heart. What he wants is a plan on how to integrate Taoist power into the original cultivation system. Now he only found Dayuan and other basic skills in Taoism, which greatly solved his problem. After another 15 days of seclusion, inside the closed warehouse, large swaths of airflow were flying in disorder. In the center of the airflow is a huge black mosquito. And this mosquito was in a state of trance. From time to time, he would grab the Tao heart beside him, pierce it with his mouth parts, and then absorb the power from it. After the last Tau heart entrance, there was a soft sneer. In the dense warehouse, there was a magical force that suddenly reabsorbed all the mist and gathered it on the body of the giant mosquito. Then countless pores opened automatically on the surface of his body, and all the airflow was absorbed into these pores. Bright compound eyes suddenly lit up in the warehouse. Stones from other hills, can learn. Jia Yan nodded with satisfaction and stood up. He looked at his giant mosquito body. Today's body has grown vaguely by another 2 or 3 kilometers. Although the amplitude is not large, Jia Yan himself knows that this increase is extremely astonishing. If you look at the calculation method of the road to heaven, my stage has at least crossed the initial starting line and reached a dozen steps. This is already quite satisfactory to Jia Yan. The entire journey to heaven, in terms of steps, is approximately between 99 and 100 steps. As soon as he absorbed the Dao heart like this, he walked more than 1/10 of the distance. No wonder they say the other world holds the secret to breakthrough. Jia Yan understood this opportunity. The memory disorder caused by Tao heart was completely repaired and perfected at this time. He just felt that the whole person had a clear mind, not only the increase in strength, but also the different views on things. This is the difference caused by the subtle understanding of spiritual practice. Of course, the way of cultivating Taoism and the way of cultivating cosmic power have their own merits. It is impossible to say which one is better and which one is not good. But in general, I think that the way of cultivating Taoism pays more attention to subtle operations, and it can be improved to a higher level than cosmic power. The level of the strong. After restraining all his retreat, Jia Yan became somewhat silent. From this point of view, since the cultivation method is so powerful, the strength of the world here needs to be reconfirmed. There are many masters in the dynasty, but judging from the current state, they are definitely inferior to those in the entire galaxy. The difference is more than a little. But that's for the entire galaxy. What if the only one to deal with them is his own trade route troops? The gap is too big. Even if there are people like Lay Master, if there are a few more, I can't stand alone. Maybe they will break through the defense line. Besides, there must be stronger ones above the Thunder Master. Even if there are only 1 or 2, it's enough for me. Thinking of this, Jia Yan's heart moved slightly. If he wants to resist the possibility of the other world using force against the Milky Way, then the only way he has a chance is to win over people of the same level or even high energy level in the other world. And speaking of his acquaintances and peers who might be able to help, it seems that it is necessary to meet those 2 people. I don't know how they are doing now. Are they having fun every night in the rebel army? Jia Yan smiled. After collecting all the items and reassessing his condition, Jia Yan went to the person in charge of Galaxy at the warehouse and asked about the recent transactions. After knowing that everything went well, he set off immediately. The subspace split open, and the entire body of the giant mosquito flew rapidly in a certain direction. And this mosquito was in a state of trance. From time to time, he would grab the Tao heart beside him, pierce it with his mouth parts, and then absorb the power from it. After the last Tao heart entrance, there was a soft sneer. In the dense warehouse, there was a magical force that suddenly reabsorbed all the mist and gathered it on the body of the giant mosquito. Then countless pores opened automatically on the surface of his body, and all the airflow was absorbed into these pores. Bright compound eyes suddenly lit up in the warehouse. Stones from other hills, can learn. Jia Yan nodded with satisfaction and stood up. He looked at his giant mosquito body. Today's body has grown vaguely by another 2 or 3 kilometers. Although the amplitude is not large, Jia Yan himself knows that this increase is extremely astonishing. If you look at the calculation method of the road to heaven, my stage has at least crossed the initial starting line and reached a dozen steps. This is already quite satisfactory to Jia Yan. The entire journey to heaven, in terms of steps, is approximately between 99 and 100 steps. As soon as he absorbed the Dao heart like this, he walked more than 1/10 of the distance. No wonder they say the other world holds the secret to breakthrough. Jia Yan understood this opportunity. The memory disorder caused by Tao heart was completely repaired and perfected at this time. He only felt that the whole person had a clear mind, not just an increase in strength, but also an increase in strength. Ko is more about having different views on things. This is the difference caused by the subtle understanding of spiritual practice. Of course, the way of cultivating Taoism and the way of cultivating cosmic power have their own merits. It is impossible to say which one is better and which one is not good. But in general, I think that the way of cultivating Taoism pays more attention to subtle operations, and it can be improved to a higher level than cosmic power. The level of the strong. After restraining all his retreat, Jia Yan became somewhat silent. From this point of view, since the cultivation method is so powerful, the strength of the world here needs to be reconfirmed. There are many masters in the dynasty, but judging from the current state, they are definitely inferior to those in the entire galaxy. The difference is more than a little. But that's for the entire galaxy. What if the only one to deal with them is his own trade route troops? What about the road troops? What about the road troops? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3148. Two adults, where are you from? I'm afraid it's not a simple origin. Chuxing and Jiqiao nodded and smiled, but did not answer directly. Is the dioxin on this trip in the warehouse? I'll go and get our share. Okay, I'd like to send you two seniors a respectful farewell. The leader of the Rebel Alliance and other leaders quickly stood up to see them off. These two people, their attitude is really a bit too arrogant. Leader, are we? Some of his subordinates quietly attached their ears. The Alliance leader's eyes flashed, and after a moment he waved his hand and said, the two seniors have worked hard for our army, and their strength is definitely considered brave. You don't need to say more. Yes, the two seniors are worldly experts and have their own popularity. We just have to endure it. The senior executives immediately understood and praised the two seniors one after another. Now the praise is not because of how much they support those two people. It's just that the contradiction between the two parties is not irreconcilable. Things and people have changed. A few days ago, the rebels we joined were not so vying for power. Chuxing and Jiqiao were walking on the road to the military aircraft warehouse. That's what people in the world are like. Once they have the power, they can't wait to stabilize it, without even looking at whether they have the courage to grasp it. The two of them chatted. The patrolling soldiers around them turned a blind eye to them. If you don't say this, the worst thing is that you and I can leave at any time. Have you sent someone to find out Jia Yan's whereabouts? Chu Xin shook his head, no, but it is said that there are some strange movements in Xiancheng, and I'm afraid it has something to do with Jia Yan. What's the noise? It's a long story. Anyway, all you need to know is that someone over there has created some kind of trade channel with the galaxy. Trade? With the Milky Way, Ji Qiao glared, feeling funny. The difficulty of communication between the two realms is even difficult for them, the two late domain masters. But someone started to engage in some kind of trade? This makes them think about how to return to the galaxy, as if they were joking. It must be Jia Yan, he is really amazing. We are here to discuss how to leave, and he has come to this step. Is it trade? Then I think he has mastered the normal way of entering and exiting the subspace. The two soon stopped talking. It's just that both sides' eyes were wandering, vaguely thinking about something. For them, this news is obviously not as calm as it seems. The impact is huge. After all, this is the other world, a place that contains countless opportunities and benefits. If Jia Yan masters some kind of trade channel, the interests behind it will be extremely great. The two of them couldn't help but feel excited. Under the seemingly peaceful gaze, there are many unknown thoughts hidden. But these thoughts also flow deep in the soul. They all know it. This trip seemed to be three people traveling side by side, but in fact, from the beginning, the three parties were not friendly at all. Chuxing and Jikiao are nothing more than friends who have been friends for hundreds or thousands of years. In any case, there is some friendship between them, and in the end they come together and advance and retreat together. But on the other side of Jiayan, when they were being hunted by Lei Shi before, they took advantage of Jiayan's confused and unstable state and adopted the method of letting Jiayan hold Lei Shi off by himself. This is nothing to talk about cooperation. Well, thinking of this, the two people who entered the warehouse sighed involuntarily. Having so many Taoist thoughts at hand has become unsatisfactory. Two old friends, I don't know why I sigh. Just when they were about to talk, a familiar voice appeared in their hearing organs. The two masters suddenly felt shocked. You must know that they are masters who are equivalent to the level of guru in the other world. They are able to do it without being noticed, and they can hear their sighs without being noticed. I am afraid they are not easy to deal with. But after a moment of shock, they suddenly remembered who the voice belonged to. If it belongs to that person, it's normal. Jia Yan. Your Excellency Jia Yan, you asked me to wait and find you. I didn't expect you to find us first. The two of them looked at the subspace next to them with expressions of joy. Because it is almost impossible for life to exist in the inner world and outer space, they have gradually lowered their vigilance towards subspaces. This is also the reason why they didn't feel it immediately when Jia Yan approached this place. Of course they have nothing to fear. If someone comes from the subspace with malicious intentions and launches an attack, powerful people like them will instinctively detect it and react immediately. Puff. As expected. Under the gaze of the two men, a long crack opened in the subspace outside the surface of the warehouse. The subspace inside is by no means as stable as that near Xiancheng, but has almost reached the level of chaos of the 13th level space. Even the giant mosquito was more or less injured when it emerged. But the injury was already intact when he stepped out into the warehouse. This level of subdimensional strength, congratulations to Brother Jia for your great improvement in strength. The two of them paused for a moment before congratulating each other with a smile. Based on this spatial ability alone, they could see that Jia Yan's strength could not be improved compared to when he first arrived. This made their confidence in their self-proclaimed strength slightly shaken. After all, they have improved, and others have not stayed still. Haha, it's easy to say, two friends, we are fellow villagers. I haven't heard from you for so long, and I really miss you. No, I just heard your information yesterday, so I rushed over and saw you two. Not only is it in good condition, but it is also slightly better than before, which really makes me happy. Jia Yan is also smiling but not smiling. The three people, who were smiling but not smiling, let out a cheerful fake smile. After a while. So, Your Excellency Jia Yan, have you really developed a trade route? The great realm of spirits? Where is this? The two of them kept asking questions with their hearts beating wildly. Even his voice was a bit thicker. Because their thoughts were confirmed, and it was more amazing than they imagined. It was originally thought that Jia Yan had found some unstable way to trade with the other world. But they didn't expect that what came out of Jia Yan's mouth was a far more normal transaction method than they imagined. They even have trade routes figured out. Some galaxy personnel were also brought in. Both of you, we are both straightforward people, so I won't beat around the bush. After Jia Yan revealed part of the inside story, he said calmly, after all, the three of us are people who advance and retreat together. What's the benefit of coming to this world together? I will naturally think of you too. Now I have roughly established a trade. What the system lacks now is a master in charge. I am the only one. After all, it is still difficult to fight against the strong men of the entire dynasty. I don't know if you too. Of course I am willing, Chu Xing answered first without waiting for Ji Jiao's reply. Ji Jiao was robbed of his words. After choking for a while, he smiled and said, I didn't expect Your Excellency Jia Yan to be so understanding of righteousness. If Your Excellency Jia Yan thinks that we are qualified, then count me in. I must be as strong as Chu Xing, it's quite interesting. If two people are at odds, the trade will last forever. Jia Yan said with a smile. Of course he knew it was impossible for the two of them to refuse. With such a huge benefit, they would be fools to refuse it. Besides, without Jia Yan, it would be difficult for them to return to the Milky Way. Unless they are willing to wait for hundreds of years, when the two worlds are completely integrated, and then find an opportunity to return to the galaxy through the gap, but in a few hundred years, what will happen to their own power, and whether the war will affect their return, will not be known. There is great uncertainty. With the intelligence of the two of you, it is naturally impossible for you to abandon the near for the far. Then the two of us are going back to your Chamber of Commerce with Mr. Jia Yan now, or are we? Jiao asked. Jia Yan shook his head and looked at the rebel warehouse. Especially when he saw the piles of Taoist hearts and a large amount of military supplies, even his eyes lit up and he felt a little greedy. But this greed quickly disappeared. There is no need to go back with me. Since you two have status within the rebel army, we can have multiple options for trade. Everyone is a smart person and they immediately understand. That's right. Trading with the dynasty may not be as profitable as trading with the rebels, but if this matter is known to the dynasty, Jia Yan said with a smile, it depends on the operation of the two brothers. How to keep it secret, and how to ensure that even if the secret is leaked, it will not implicate us. This matter will not be difficult for you too. Haha, that's true. If we can't even solve these troubles, wouldn't we let Brother Jia down? The two started laughing. Indeed, if he does not have this ability, Jia Yan has really chosen the wrong person. And it also loses their status as a late-level power in the galaxy. Jia Yan could see the two of them in high spirits. He is not afraid that the two of them will not do things well for him. Now he is the only maintainer of trade. Whether it is trade routes, resources, or even the person in charge of the entire matter, he is the one who takes care of everything. If the two of them had not been kicked in the head by a donkey, they would definitely choose to cooperate with him. Because this is the way to maximize profits. There were no special holidays in the past. By the way, Brother Jia, here is the Dao heart that we have recently obtained. Come and see it. It is also a little gift for us to cooperate with you. Ji Jiao seemed to take 5 Tao hearts from a pile of Tao hearts at will. No, he took another one away and gave the remaining 4 to Jia Yan. Seeing how much pain he was feeling, Chu Xing even didn't want to look at him. He was definitely bleeding profusely. But for future benefits, neither of them said anything about this investment. Jia Yan was slightly moved. These two are really willing to spend a lot of money. It can be seen that they are also straightforward people. That would be disrespectful. You two must have heard about the trade matter. I will send someone, actually my clone, to contact you two. Good. Jia Yan smiled and tore open the subspace again and plunged into it. There was silence in the warehouse for a moment. Is it worth taking out 4 Dao hearts like this? We haven't even seen half of the so-called trade, Chu Xing said with some regret. Ji Jiao looked at him. If I hadn't gotten the information, I might have thought he was cheating, but since I have accurate information, this investment is still necessary. Chuxing also knew that Jiao was right and didn't say anything for a long time. They also had various thoughts in their minds. If the matter is true, their interests will definitely be greater than imagined. A mere 4 Taoist hearts can definitely recoup the losses in a short period of time. And after analysis, Jia Yan does need them. After all, if this trade channel is not controlled by an absolutely powerful person, it is impossible to achieve the expected goals. Regardless of the powerful people in the inner world or the other side of the galaxy, if they smell the smell of profit, there will definitely be many people of the same level, like sharks that smell the smell of blood, coming to take a share of the pie. Jia Yan, even if he is a late-level genius with subspace talent, can hardly cover everything and defeat many with one. A single tree cannot support itself. But add the two of them and a huge support behind them. It's no longer just a dream. The lower level of the three great domain lords, not to mention the great spiritual domain that I have never heard of, even the central star domain of the Milky Way, is a force that almost sweeps all except the powerful ones above the domain lord. There is no good thing in the world for no reason. Hey, if we want to get benefits, things are destined to be bad in the future. Yes, I also feel that this Jia Yan did not tell us everything, but so what, if there is this trade route that leads directly to the Milky Way, it will definitely be a great blessing for us. I can feel that level is beckoning to me. The two masters started daydreaming in the warehouse. The sound of footsteps coming from the outside world soon, as well as the nervous exclamations from the alliance leaders and others, saying that it was an invitation to fight from the imperial dynasty, brought them back to reality. Since you want to use the identity of the rebel master to trade, you really have to do something. The two of them suddenly became more serious about this identity. Deep in subspace. After exhausting his efforts and getting rid of the extremely difficult and unstable subspace area, Jia Yan quickly returned to the stable subspace area. Hey, the two powerful late-level domain lords were convinced by me just like that. Didn't you expect that my eloquence is not bad? Jia Yan was proud of himself. But he also knew it in his heart. These two guys were just attracted by the benefits. The three parties are completely based on the fetters of interest relationships. If one day there are better interests, or if their lives are involved, they will be the first to turn around. WW. Zayashwiyuan.com. The same relationship exists between Chuxing and Jikiao. After all, no lower-ranking domain lord is a good man or woman. What Jia Yan didn't tell the two of them was actually only one thing. That is, the world outside is likely to have some contact with the Milky Way in the next few hundred years. This contact may only last for a few hundred years, maybe a few thousand years, or even tens of thousands of years. No one knows how long it will last, but it is foreseeable that the two sides will engage in a real head-to-head confrontation. At that time, it is likely that there will be more than one dynasty, but other forces and experts in the world will intervene. For the Milky Way, the other world is a place of opportunity where one can get a glimpse of the levels above the territory lord, but for the other world, isn't the Milky Way a golden land full of materials? Jia Yan temporarily concealed the two of them, just to let them be pulled into his chariot and stand on the front line. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3149. He never thought about protecting the entire galaxy. But while grabbing profits, as long as there is spare power, he is still willing to cover the surrounding areas of the spiritual realm, including the Orion arm, within the scope of his protection. It's hard. But it has to be done. Jia Yan has not engaged in any conspiracy for a long time. Overall, he is a self-contained and quick to solve problems. But when things progressed to the current situation, he had to use a strategy. Perhaps this is one of the tragedies of reaching this stage of strength. No one stronger will take care of the overall situation. Because he himself is one of the top people. If he doesn't even do it, then no one will do it. This joint move of yours is not enough. A group of masters from the great realm of gods joined forces to move, but the black god saw through them. Thank you for your advice, sir. After the attack, Jia Yan Gujing left without wavering. Everyone in the divine realm behind him looked respectful. 7 of them were the first to follow Jia Yan in this world. Until recently, the divine realm sent a goddess emperor, which made them feel uncontrollable ecstasy. It seemed that going home was close at hand. They no longer had any doubts about this insignificant earthling, and they devoted their lives for him loyally. They were so loyal that the goddess emperor recognized several of them, and after coming to have a secret conversation, she actually thought that some of them might have been bribed by the assassins. After all, they have been separated from the realm of gods for decades, and no one knows what their mentality has become. The real body's absorption of the Taoist heart also enhances the clone's strength. Black God Jia Yan felt the changes in his body while entering his residence. The changes in the giant Mosquito's true body are also extremely significant changes for the clone. For him, the absorption of Tao heart does not actually flow into the body, but it has a complementary effect. A vague and uncertain energy is continuously provided to the clone. Has the power finally stabilized to above the stellar level? Black God Jia Yan sighed. Don't forget, the clone's strength is fixed. Even if he has the power of formations and the power of world pressure to create the world, his essence is still the elementary level of a star. Nowadays, the strength of the real body is conveyed more smoothly, and the strength of Black God Jia Yan has also steadily entered the middle and high-level stars. It looks like he is about to climb to the galaxy level. In this way, combined with the powerful combat experience and various superb combat skills, the clone can also be said to have more conventional combat effectiveness at the galaxy level. There is still no way to deal with the Domain Lord. In addition to using subspace abilities to escape, he is not an enemy at all. But this is already very good. I've met the assassin. The goddess emperor came to the area where Jia Yan's clone was located and showed great respect. She also knew that this was Jia Yan's clone. But being in the hinterland of Xiancheng, there are many people and many eyes, so naturally it is better to use the name of the clone here. Have you adapted to this world recently? Well, I'm getting used to it a little bit, but I still can't accept it. Jia Yan understood what the goddess emperor said. After all, in the outside world, it is a giant being that is 20 kilometers tall and is definitely a behemoth. When it comes to the other world, it is judged as a small creature. It is like a mountain-like giant walking around. It is normal that I can't stand it. It was the same with him in the beginning. Time will not wait for you slowly. Our Chamber of Commerce can be said to be surrounded by enemies here. If you still can't get used to it in a few days, I will send you back and find someone else. Sorry, that's not what I meant. The goddess emperor's expression changed, and she quickly stopped mentioning that she couldn't get used to the other world. In the past few days, she had already tasted the benefits of sitting in Xiancheng. And it's a huge benefit. You know, although she can't line her own pockets, the materials she brings with her can be used to trade cultivation materials with local merchants in her own name. This is equivalent to bypassing the trading system to a certain extent, deducting the benefits of middlemen, and directly exchanging small amounts with local merchants. Many merchants are even willing to pay higher prices to trade with her in order not to be monopolized by big forces. So she has already used Tao Xi and cultivation at this time. You must know that Jia Yan and others at the lower level of Territory Lord all used violent methods to obtain Taoist hearts from passers-by several days after entering. And this goddess emperor is not only at the Territory Lord level, but she has already enjoyed such great benefits openly. How could she be willing to leave just like that? I even thought about how to go outside to search for more valuable trading items during the next handover, and bring them in to benefit myself again if the rules allow it. That's good. Jia Yandan nodded. How could he not know what these people were doing? But this is one of the benefits of coming to a dangerous situation in the other world. If you are not given this benefit, who would be willing to come to such a highly dangerous and restricted place? This world is a breakthrough place for the masters at the lower level of Domain Lord, but for the strong ones below the lower level, it is almost a dead end. Without the guarantee of strong enough strength, if there is a conflict, they will definitely die. Jia Yan looked at the goddess emperor and said, "Time will not allow you to slowly get used to it. The power of the Xiancheng and the dynasty has already been conducting more research on us, and what you have to do, let me tell you now." The young man with black hair and black eyes approached the goddess emperor. Listening to the other party's ears and eyes have a new feeling. And she suddenly understood that when she came to the other world, she did more than just sit in charge of the trading system. "Can I do this?" "Of course, I believe in your ability." "This, okay, I'll take those few away." "Yes, they are your men, and I will give you new power." "That kind of formation power?" "Okay, thank you, sir." After the goddess emperor conspired with Jia Yan, she left with deep worry and fright. Later, Jia Yan summoned 7 subordinates from the great spiritual domain and several loyal local small creature masters in this solitary space. As for what was said, no one knows. The spies in Xiancheng only knew that this man seemed to have carried out some small actions, but as the trade system was still friendly for the time being, their reports were not taken seriously by the superiors. The extraterrestrial visitors from the Milky Way are, at best, an alien species under the current imperial dynasty. The benefits brought by Jia Yan and the others far outweighed the disadvantages, so the dynasty chose to tolerate it. It's just that the dynasty is extremely unaccustomed to having benefits that are not in their own hands. Many people began to choose to contact Jia Yan. They want to firmly control this only master who can carry out trade in their hands. "Do you want to summon me from the imperial capital?" "Sorry, I need to be in charge of the trade channel here." "You don't want to see this trade channel temporarily closed for several months or even half a year after I go there, right? Does it turn out that you need to be in charge of the passage? Then this matter is indeed not allowed." Several officials from the capital city who came to contact had a cordial and friendly meeting with the black god Jia Yan. This is already the 2nd month since Jia Yan started the transaction with Dynasty. After the products of the Milky Way were transported out of Xiancheng and transported over long distances to the capital and more distant cities, their prices skyrocketed, at least 10 times more. Those that were more effective or of higher value could even skyrocket to dozens of times more sensational. The major merchants who saw the benefits all wished that Xiancheng could continuously ship out products within 20 hours. Unfortunately, this trade route was greatly affected by Jia Yan's actions. It is impossible for him, and he will not do nothing all day long, just running back and forth between the two worlds. Regarding subspace research, it is said that Dynasty has finally formalized its research and formed a dedicated team. It is a pity that their research is only at an extremely superficial level, and it is difficult to even access subspace, let alone solve the sensational distortion power of deep subspace. That kind of power is no longer an area that ordinary strong men can touch. But please don't be disappointed, envoys. I have prepared a special gift for His Majesty the Emperor. Jia Yan handed over a portion of the star core and packaged it into an extremely exquisite gift box. "Thank you very much." The messenger's eyes lit up. "You know, even the royal family's recent demand for star cores is extremely high, but because the goods are too small, even His Majesty the Emperor cannot have star cores for use anytime and anywhere. Competing with the masters, the Emperor had to give some of it to the masters. Otherwise it will be difficult to convince the public. In addition, our Chamber of Commerce intends to establish a new trade route. I wonder if the envoys would be willing to speak in the court for me. These are the meeting gifts for you." Jia Yan has launched a new gift box. Although these are not as exquisite as the Emperor's star cores, they are still artificial star cores and their value is not low. Several people opened the gift boxes given to them by their subordinates from Galaxy, and soon their eyes showed a little joy. They are willing to come to frontier places like Xiancheng just for this benefit. This small, human-like biological powerhouse is indeed the best. They immediately beamed. It's easy to say, let me wait for this matter to be reported. Of course, whether it can succeed depends on the decision of His Majesty the Emperor and the ministers. I guess it shouldn't be too difficult. These envoys are said to be envoys, but in fact almost all of them are high-ranking officials of the current dynasty. Some were military attaches who came here specifically to see if there was any threat from the so-called visitors from outside in Xiancheng, and some were resourceful civil servants. Now that Jia Yan is on the road, they feel a little better in their hearts. As long as there is no threat to the dynasty, they are still willing to do something for each other after getting benefits. By the way, it is said. Jia Yan suddenly changed the topic to another aspect, and his expression became quite hesitant. What's wrong? Does His Highness the Assassin have anything to hide? Several ministers asked. Jia Yan sighed, looked at these dignitaries and said, it's not that I have something to hide, but I have recently done a little more research on the area of the general dynasty, and found that, there are many people in your dynasty in this mountain forest. Although Xiancheng is a strong city, we and other traders always want to see a stable situation, otherwise it will be detrimental to our trade. I wonder, whether you adults can guarantee the stability of the surrounding area. Several people's expressions suddenly turned ugly. When someone exposes their scars and shortcomings, it makes everyone feel uncomfortable. But they also understand deep down that if the other party is just a businessman, it is normal behavior to pay attention to the situation. A stable society is the environment that businessmen most desire. I'm sorry that the young people in this dynasty have made His Highness the Assassin have a bad opinion, but Your Highness can rest assured that our dynasty has already had its own way of handling this matter, and it will be resolved in a few days. Because of the presence of your Chamber of Commerce, Xiancheng needs a stable trade road. The dynasty has long had the idea of stabilizing this trade road. Soon, heavenly soldiers will come to suppress the bandits. Please rest assured, Your Highness the Assassin. Several generals spoke loudly. Their bold tone also made Jia Yan breathe a sigh of relief. That's good. We, the merchants, need a stable trade road the most. Please resolve this matter as soon as possible. I can't believe that our plans to expand our trade will only be in these days. Several senior officials looked at each other. Keep this in mind. It turns out that the so-called Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is not without the possibility of expanding trade volume, but is worried about security issues on the dynasty's side. In this case, they really need to pay more attention, otherwise His Majesty will definitely get angry if this matter is known, and then turn his anger on them. Send away these senior officials. Master Assassin, I wonder what you mean by this. The goddess emperor accompanied her almost the whole time and made a beautiful background board. Although I didn't express my own opinions, I heard them throughout the whole process. Jia Yan looked at her and said calmly, don't you think the current dynasty is too stable? The goddess emperor was slightly startled. Then he suddenly understood, and the thought of feeling inferior arose in his mind. Of course, she didn't know that Jia Yan had been analyzing it in his heart for a long time. For future trade and our interests, the dynasty cannot be too monolithic. It must be as chaotic as possible. Jia Yan didn't say anything. That is, the more chaotic the dynasty is, the weaker it will be when it meets the Milky Way in the future. I understand. No wonder your lordship told me what he said to me a few days ago. I will start to do it immediately. The goddess emperor nodded imperceptibly, but there was a slightly strange expression in her eyebrows. Find the bookstore. She had already sensed something from Jia Yan's actions and various clues. A powerful person in the lower realm of the territory lord level cannot do anything unnecessary. There must be some reason for Mr. Jia Yan to bother doing this. What are the benefits of messing up the dynasty? In terms of benefits, It really doesn't make sense. Now every commodity in the galaxy is controlled by Jia Yan. If he wants to raise the price, he can raise the price. Why should he cause trouble in the dynasty? Suddenly a possibility appeared in the depths of the goddess emperor's mind. Under what circumstances did the dynasty have to be in chaos? Could it be? Her expression changed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3150. It is actually not difficult to guess that this world may be bordering the Milky Way. But Jia Yan, as an authoritative person, did not make a sound. No matter how others speculate, it is difficult to prove. Only the top scientific research institutions in the Milky Way central star region can use various methods to monitor subspace depths of more than 10 degrees. Huck. Inside a battleship, a panting young man stopped exercising while gasping for air. He is a very handsome young man. How is it? Son, have you broken through to the intermediate level of the venerable? Haha, it's not that easy. The young man shook his head bitterly. You're not working hard enough. In fact, Dad, I'm only a few decades older than you, and now I've reached the high level of a venerable. You claim to have good talent. Will he be happy to see your grandpa like this? The young man almost blurted out something. Grandpa, can we father and son compare? I'm afraid that on the old man's side, there is no difference between our father and son, one is a junior monk and the other is a junior monk. Brother, please don't laugh at the other. The man who walked into the door of the battleship's dedicated training room is a bit reluctant to say he is middle-aged, because his appearance is not much different from that of a young man. Both father and son are generally handsome. They are Jia Yan's son Jiarong and grandson Jia 11. After receiving the invitation from Jia Yan, they declined all matters and went straight to the distant realm of the gods. The journey along this journey may be said to be simple, but it may not be simple, but it is by no means ordinary. There is no direct trade route from the Orion Arm to the spiritual realm. They first teamed up with the caravan traveling in the Orion Arm, and then teamed up with several other large power chambers of commerce along the way, sheltered under large organizations, and encountered several cosmic robbers, all of which were large-scale forces who came forward to pay for the passage. Passed through without any danger. What they saw on the road increased their knowledge. The days when all the venerables were cannon fodder made them realize that there were really countless strong people in the universe. But precisely because of this, they became even more aware of how shocking the existence of their elder was and how high his level was. They, who are at the venerable level, are at most the elite monsters in the galaxy, but that parent is a huge evil. Even in this entire route, there is no master who can compete with it. Dad, what did you think Grandpa wanted to do when he came to us this time? It is said that he has some improvement skills. Your grandfather seems to rarely return to Earth, but as you know, he has always been thinking about his family. This time he must have come directly to us to improve the family. Jia 11 looked at her father strangely. Look what I do, Jiarong frowned. Dad, I heard them say that you and Grandpa are not. Jiarong slapped his son on the head angrily, you little brat, don't listen to the wind or the rain. Your grandfather and I had some disagreements between father and son in the past, and they have been resolved long ago. Oh. Jia 11 held her head and seemed to understand. Hey, there's movement ahead. Just when the two traveled far beyond the Orion Arm range and reached the middle distance, there was a huge explosion from the attached chamber of commerce forces. The two of them were frightened and flew up directly, standing high above the battleship and watching from afar. The battleship they were stationed on was actually a merchant ship from the Earth as a cover, while Litsi was a complete battleship, and Bengzili was the latest model battleship in the Northern Territory, and its combat power far exceeded that of the Orion Arm battleship. Those who control the battleship are also a group of top battleship control experts on Earth and the Orion Arm. To adults, please be patient. We are confirming the situation with the caravan. The civilian staff in the battleship used the communicator to convey the safety signal to the two of them. The two of them had nothing to worry about. The caravan they invested is of good strength and has been prepared long ago, so there shouldn't be any major mistakes. Even if there were any problems, the battleships under their feet would definitely be able to protect their safety. But this time it seems a bit unexpected. The ground shaking ahead is getting more and more severe. A huge being that reached 10 kilometers in size rushed into the center of the caravan with a grin. You dare to refuse my cloud beast's request? There is no need for this caravan to exist. A creature 10 kilometers in size, according to the state theory of ordinary cosmic powerhouses, has reached at least half a star level, and may even be a star level. Coming. He's actually a master. Star-level existences generally have a very high status in the universe, and it is impossible for them to look down on ordinary caravans. On the surface, this caravan is not a unique caravan, so it should not be able to attract the attention of a stellar powerhouse. But this person just appeared, and there were other masters vaguely behind him. It's not because of us, is it? Jia 11's expression changed. Jia Rong said, "Don't worry, let's take a look at the situation first." As a senior executive with real power in the Orion Arm, although Jia Rong has been promoted so high, it cannot be ruled out that Jia Yan plays a vague role behind the scenes, but if he himself does not have real talent and knowledge, it is absolutely impossible to secure his position. Faced with such a situation, it is natural to remain calm. "Hey, there's another one over there, get out and hand the merchant ship over to us." The so-called Ziyuanman smashed several ordinary merchant ships of the Chamber of Commerce, causing the death and injury of thousands of merchant members, and quickly set its sights on the battleship on which Jia and his son were riding. "It's really aimed at us." Jia Rong's face turned gloomy. The other party seemed to have no scruples and approached him without a target, but judging from his movement trajectory, it seemed that he had been targeting their ship from the beginning. If you say it was not intentional, who would believe it? Alert, alert. An unidentified cosmic beast is approaching. Everyone is ready for level 1 combat. A piercing siren suddenly sounded from the battleship. There were a lot of combatants running around. As for Jia and his son, they had communication requirements and immediately entered the lifeboat beside them. If things go wrong, they will be thrown into subspace. Because a large part of Jia Yan's strength lies in the subspace, the Earth and the Orion Arm have also done a lot of research on the subspace. It just so happens that Jia Yan, a peerless master who spared no effort to help them click on the technology tree, so not to mention their research on the subspace. Although the space research and development is unique, it is still somewhat capable in using subspace to escape. You want us to escape? Dad, what should we do? Go and take a look first, we can't be impulsive. Jia Rong has long passed the age of impulsiveness. If he were a child, he would definitely not be willing to be regarded as a protection object and fight with the other party. But the current situation is that the enemy is strong and we are weak. If he fights to the death, the remaining hope of this battleship will completely disappear. We enter the subspace, and then the battleship side can choose the opportunity to escape. Good. Jia 11 let out a long breath. Compared to his father Jia Rong, Jia 11 lacks combat experience. After all, Jia Rong went through a lot of hardships when he was young. In other words, although their generation had been protected by their grandfather, there were still a lot of wars at that time, so they had to go through training. But when it comes to Jia 11's generation, there is a big difference. It was a good thing that they were stable, but the direct descendants of the Jia family began to have more and more auras of superiors. They were lazy and always responded to each other when they went out, let alone being in dangerous situations. No matter how you say it, both of them are at the venerable level. The speed of flight is extremely fast. At the same time, this northern warship made a very mature response. A dim battleship-level protective cover appeared on the surface, and the main gun immediately turned on the fire switch. First, the faster but less powerful third-level artillery fire was fired violently. That star-level expert's huge body, visible to the naked eye, erupted with bursts of gunfire and gunpowder smoke. It's actually a warship. How dare you say that there is nothing wrong with the warship hidden in the caravan? You want to detect intelligence and then mobilize the army to attack us. The other party's expression became more and more ferocious. But everyone knows that this is most likely just his excuse. Your Excellency, please stop. Among the battleships, a figure slowly flew out. It was a stellar powerhouse conquered by the Orion Arm. Although the Orion Arm is an emerging force, because of Jia Yan's relationship, there are many masters who have come to join the Orion Arm, such as the one in front of them. It's just that there aren't really many Galaxy-class ones, and even if there are, they can't get away from this trip because they have to stay in several key places in the Orion Armno territory. It is naturally very important to protect the nephews and nephews of Senior Giant Mosquito, but it depends on the situation. They cannot travel together, and they must send a top expert to protect them. This is too much of a waste of combat power. But what they never expected was that their trip, which was supposed to be safe, actually had problems. Fortunately, there are still stellar masters in the battleship. Huh? Stellar class. There is a stellar class in a battleship. How dare you say there is a misunderstanding? The giant star-level creature looked even more angry. Humph. There's no need to blame someone if you want to. That star level also looks like a tiny creature, about the same size as an Earth person. He immediately used his own methods. I saw the cloud beast coming towards him with one claw. But the star level master here used his strength, superimposed it on his arm, punched out, and exchanged attacks with the strong cloud beast head-on. But generally speaking, the smaller the creature, at least in terms of strength, it will have a huge disadvantage. The man snorted fiercely, bloodshot eyes dripping from the corners of his mouth. But he can't retreat. The battleship was right behind him, and there was nothing else to do with the others, but the identities of those two people were such that even he would be respectful to them when he saw them. If their lives were in danger, those behind them would definitely be furious. As for the angry one, I really don't know what the outcome will be. It is not impossible for the entire star field to turn into scorched earth. Of course, before that, as a protector, he would definitely bear the brunt and die first. So no matter what, he couldn't let this giant monster destroy the battleship. Puff. Just as he was fighting this stellar monster, a spout opened in the battleship, and something like a small aircraft flew out of the hatch. The moment the plane appeared, a crack opened in the subspace and the plane got into it. And it changes its trajectory from time to time inside the subspace, gradually going deeper, and throws out a large number of thermal interference devices that lure the enemy's sight, real and fake, and quickly disappear. Very good, both your highnesses are gone. The star's face became much better, and when he looked at the Zoyanman who was fighting with him, his expression became ferocious. Afraid of you. He immediately took advantage of it and used his speed to fly back and forth around Zonman from time to time. As a result, the opponent was furious, but he was not attacked at all. Come to Cheateon.com to subscribe and read the following. At the same time, this northern warship made a very mature response. A dim battleship-level protective cover appeared on the surface, and the main gun immediately turned on the fire switch. First, the faster but less powerful third-level artillery fire was fired violently. That star-level expert's huge body, visible to the naked eye, erupted with bursts of gunfire and gunpowder smoke. It's actually a warship. How dare you say that there is nothing wrong with the warship hidden in the caravan? You want to detect intelligence and then mobilize the army to attack us. The other party's expression became more and more ferocious. But everyone knows that this is most likely just his excuse. Your Excellency, please stop. Among the battleships, a figure slowly flew out. It was a stellar powerhouse conquered by the Orion Arm. Although the Orion Arm is an emerging force, because of Jia Yan's relationship, there are many masters who have come to join the Orion Arm, such as the one in front of them. It's just that there aren't really many Galaxy-class ones, and even if there are, they can't get away from this trip because they have to stay in several key places in the Orion Armno territory. It is naturally very important to protect the nephews and nephews of Senior Giant Mosquito, but it depends on the situation. They cannot travel together, and they must send a top expert to protect them. This is too much of a waste of combat power. But what they never expected was that their trip, which was supposed to be safe, actually had problems. Fortunately, there are still stellar masters in the battleship. Huh? Stellar class. There is a stellar class in a battleship. How dare you say there is a misunderstanding? The giant star-level creature looked even more angry. Humph. There's no need to blame someone if you want to. That star level also looks like a tiny creature, about the same size as an Earth person. He immediately used his own methods. I saw the cloud beast coming towards him with one claw. But the stellar master here used all his power to was superimposed on the arm, punched out, and exchanged attacks with the strong cloud beast head-on. But generally speaking, the smaller the creature, at least in terms of strength, it will have a huge disadvantage. The man snorted fiercely, bloodshot eyes dripping from the corners of his mouth. But he can't retreat. The battleship was right behind him, and there was nothing else to do with the others, but the identities of those two people were such that even he would be respectful to them when he saw them. If their lives were in danger, those behind them would definitely be furious. As for the angry one, I really don't know what the outcome will be. It is not impossible for the entire star field to turn into scorched earth. Of course, before that, as a protector, he would definitely bear the brunt and die first. 1 second to remember. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3151. Sure enough, people still need to communicate, but in your opinion, is the world there a partner that can cooperate normally? The goddess asked. Jia Yan laughed jokingly, of course not. No, the goddess was stunned. By now, the divine realm has been firmly tied to Jia Yan's trade chariot, so there is no need to hide anything. Jia Yan said calmly, then the dynasty will definitely have a battle with us. The goddess looked shocked, but thought of something, and kept silent in an uncertain manner. Just meditate. Jia Yan knew that this person might have thought of something. After all, no one who has reached this level is not smart. Senior. Senior. Something's wrong, Senior. Just when the goddess wanted to continue saying something, a slightly panicked exclamation suddenly sounded outside the door. The goddess paused. Jia Yan also looked out the door curiously. This is the Shady Gate, the exclusive personal space in the universe for strong men like them. It looks like a smoke structure, but in fact there are a large number of mechanism codes and other blockades. Therefore, the people who can come here have been carefully screened from outside. Come in. Jia Yan said in a deep voice. The visitor flying in outside the door was not an ordinary person, but Li He, an earthling who had been given the gift of Yin-Yang Dao by Jia Yan. Li He was a little nervous when he saw the goddess in Jia Yan's room. What's the matter? He hesitated and looked at the goddess. Your Excellency Jia Yan, I'll take my leave first. The goddess smiled and left directly. Jia Yan didn't stop her either. Li He's expression seemed to reveal that this matter was no small matter. Standing in the black mist room, watching the goddess leave, Li He took a long breath. Senior Mosquito ancestor, an important warship from Earth rushing here was intercepted by unknown forces on the way. At this time, Lord Jia Rong and Lord Jia 11 are missing. What? What happened to them? Jia Yan's expression suddenly froze. You know, there are many reasons why he is still thinking about the people on Earth and the Orion Arm, just because of his family and children. Now, such a big thing happened to my only son and grandson. Even his demeanor was a little off balance. The two adults have disappeared, but from the news coming from the battleship, it seems that their lives were not in danger, but they escaped in the subspace life-saving device. The subspace life-saving device? Is it the one I commissioned the Northern Territory Ultra High-Tech Workshop to build last time? Yes, BO sent the aircraft more than half a month ago, so it was directly used on this mission. Unexpectedly, it really worked. How long has it been since this happened? Probably, including the time loss of ultra-long-distance transmission, it's about an hour and a half. I need them to escape the line map. Jia Yan snorted sharply. Yes. Li He thought of something, and quickly took out his brain, not daring to waste any more time, and conveyed a series of coordinate data, as well as a large amount of information about the battle. In less than a few seconds, Jia Yan received this information. A heavy atmosphere filled the scene, making Li He's face turn pale from time to time. After reading the information, he let out a long sigh. It seems that some people don't see what I'm doing now and are making some small tricks. Since these clowns have brought their tricks on my family, it's no wonder that the next bloody storm will happen. Jia Yan seems to be calm. Senior, what are you going to do? Jia Yan looked at Li He and said softly, young man, although this is bad news, as a strong man, you must find ways to turn bad things into good things, use all resources, use all conditions, let the enemy realizes how terrible you are, so even if you are a little crazy, there is nothing wrong with it. Li He was startled. Before he could taste it, he saw gaps in space opening up in front of Jia Yan. Even the active cutting-off system of this shady battlefield cannot feel the cracking of subspace. As for how to do it, you will know after reading it. In the future, you will be a strong man, just do this. As he spoke, Jia Yan stepped into the subspace with his giant feet. I heard Li He behind me respectfully holding his fists and bowing his head, best farewell to me, senior. Before he finished speaking, the rift in subspace had automatically closed. The giant mosquito figure didn't even have the slightest feeling, and just left quietly. In this large trading area, many top experts have arrived recently, including many senior domain lords who are like goddess lords. But they couldn't even catch the traces of Jia Yan's departure. Deep in subspace. Sure enough, the Tao power I have gained in the other world recently has enhanced my strength a lot, and my ability to control subtle things has improved. Jia Yan is focused on nothing else. Li He may think that he will use the intelligence he has to target certain forces. It's absolutely too late to rush over now. After all, half of 5 to 6,000 light-years is still 2 to 3,000 light-years away. My son and grandson were intercepted halfway. But since Jia Yan has said that he can't even save people by turning bad things into good things, how can he talk about polar reversal? He wants to save people. And the benefits of the whole process. He wants it too. This was his strong response. If we don't kill the chicken to scare the monkeys this time, I think these guys will be bolder in the future. Even if one is resolved, the other will keep popping up. Because if someone benefits from it, someone will definitely learn from it. Directly reaching out to his only son and only grandson, the nameless fire in Jia Yan's heart almost turned into a raging flame. So, either I will respond strongly and cut off all their extravagant hopes. While I am far away from home, if you kidnap my younger relatives, you will never be able to make me compromise. Think of this place. Jia Yan's giant mosquito compound eyes looked intensely into the deepest levels of subspace. Good. This time, he wanted to let the self-righteous people see what he was doing. There is a huge difference between him, a super powerful man who has reached the lower level of domain lord, and ordinary subspace talents. Something everyone thought was impossible. He can do it. A miracle to everyone. He can trigger it freely. Thousands of mountains and rivers. He, Jia Yan, must try to arrive quickly. 2,726 light years. In the past, I probably had to go through thousands of mountains and rivers, and it would take several years to travel through it. But now, the giant mosquito's huge island-like body gradually sank, entering deeper and deeper levels of subspace. 10 degrees. He had always longed for it, and it was also a place where he always considered himself to have a great advantage. Even Jia Yan himself felt that it was a place at the extreme level of subspace. But today, he didn't even raise his eyelids, directly traveling through 10 dimensions and going deep into the 11th floor. Level 11 is theoretically about 5 to 10 times faster than the shuttle speed of 10 degrees. But it's not enough, far from it. The distortion pressure of the 11th dimension can already cause some damage to Jia Yan's body, but it is within the range that he can easily bear. However, things changed the moment they entered the 12-dimensional space. In the 12-dimensional space, even with Jia Yan's current ability, there will be greater risks. Don't look back at the time when he took Gigi and the two of them to travel into the 12th degree. It was still smooth sailing, but it was just a forward thrust. This time, he was prepared to stay at 12 degrees or above for a long time. Well, 12 degrees is about 5 times more than 11 degrees. I haven't been to the deepest point yet. Jia Yan took a deep breath. The light in his compound eyes became brighter again. A long, long time. He didn't do anything in subspace. Because the 10-dimensional space has long been the best use area that he doesn't want to explore anymore. But the last time he led two people at the same level, he saw his own possibilities. Perhaps, something like pressure can indeed make people progress more. Jia Yan took firm steps, with a calm attitude, seemingly slow but actually fast, approaching the limit of 12 degrees. The twisting force around him became more and more astonishing, and even his bones were under inexplicable pressure, making overwhelming crunching sounds from time to time. But these injuries are often healed in the next moment. As a master of the lower level of Domain Lord, his physical body has naturally reached a considerable level. It's easy to heal certain injuries instantly. The 12-degree limit has arrived. He let out a long sigh. The surrounding distortions are no longer visible to the naked eye. The twisting occurs at the cellular level. Damage also occurs at the microscopic level. If ordinary matter from the outside world is thrown in, even the densest metal will be turned into powder in an instant and completely destroyed by the power of subspace. When he got here, he had almost reached the limit before entering the other world. Going further, Jia Yan was sure that at that time, he was destined to be unable to withstand the distortion pressure, and no matter how terrifying the subspace talent was, it would be impossible for him to survive. The most extreme place of 12 degrees is about 20 times that of 11 degrees. Jia Yan sighed again. Not enough. Really not enough. At this level, the effect of movement is probably hundreds of times that of Shidu. But in normal times, the movement effect may be amazing. But now, under urgent circumstances, this speed is still not enough. If I go down, I will be hurt. And I have to use some of the means and benefits I got in the other world. But Jia Yan's eyes became sharp. The benefits and injuries are nothing compared to the lives of his children and grandchildren. If he is not willing to pay that much, what does Jia Yan mean by having children and grandchildren? Now that I have recognized my son's lineage, I also agree with them. Then we must take on the responsibility of parents. Otherwise, just talking about father and grandfather, isn't it just playing house? Bear. When he stepped into the 13th dimension, the right front foot that stepped out first suddenly seemed to be facing some unimaginable flames. The feet burst into flames. You know, this is an extremely deep level of subspace. There is no air, not even basic matter. But the foot still burned. What is certain is that this kind of combustion is not fuel in the ordinary sense. The principles and conditions of combustion are completely different from the so-called combustion in the outside world. Jia Yan only felt that this phenomenon of twisting to the limit was the result of twisting it to an appalling degree and then using his own body matter and energy to burn it. I see, is this the subspace after exceeding the limit? 13-dimensional space. It is indeed an awe-inspiring place. But Jia Yan didn't have much fear. He was not afraid and stepped into the 13th floor with his whole body. Bear, bear, bear. Immediately, huge blazing flames appeared all over his body, surrounding him like a giant burning mosquito. Pain. The pain was everywhere, whether it was at the physical or cellular level, it was wailing miserably. This kind of pain was something Jia Yan hadn't felt for a long, long time. Just like every time he evolved, it was like letting him experience the pain of death countless times in 1 second. Even with his determination, he almost lost his mind for an instant and was deprived of any will that existed here. If you lose your mind for a moment, the consequences can be imagined. But after shaking for a while, the giant mosquito's burning eyes lit up with golden light. Against the endless fireball, he looked at the direction. Come to Kidian and subscribe to see them all. The most extreme place of 12 degrees is about 20 times that of 11 degrees. Jia Yan sighed again. Not enough. Really not enough. At this level, the effect of movement is probably hundreds of times that of Shidu. But in normal times, the movement effect may be amazing. But now, under urgent circumstances, this speed is still not enough. If I go down, I will be hurt. And I have to use some of the means and benefits I got in the other world. But Jia Yan's eyes became sharp. The benefits and injuries are nothing compared to the lives of his children and grandchildren. If he is not willing to pay that much, what does Jia Yan mean by having children and grandchildren? Now that I have recognized my son's lineage, I also agree with them. Then we must take on the responsibility of parents. Otherwise, just talking about father and grandfather, isn't it just playing house? Bear. When he stepped into the 13th dimension, the right front foot that stepped out first suddenly seemed to be facing some unimaginable flames. The feet burst into flames. You know, this is an extremely deep level of subspace. There is no air, not even basic matter. But the foot still burned. What is certain is that this kind of combustion is not fuel in the ordinary sense. For the principles and conditions of combustion, please, are completely different from what the outside world calls combustion. Jia Yan only felt that this phenomenon of twisting to the limit was the result of twisting it to an appalling degree and then using his own body matter and energy to burn it. I see, is this the subspace after exceeding the limit? 13-dimensional space. It is indeed an awe-inspiring place. But Jia Yan didn't have much fear. He was not afraid and stepped into the 13th floor with his whole body. Bear, bear, bear. Immediately, huge blazing flames appeared all over his body, surrounding him like a giant burning mosquito. Pain. 1 second to remember. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3152. To be honest. Compared with the toughness and life-threatening spirit he had when he was weak at the beginning, he is indeed less desperate now. But today's crisis between his son and grandson made him feel that way again. Well. Braving a lot of flames, Jia Yan turned into a giant terrifying mosquito in the flames and flew away fiercely. Boom. Within subspace. The endless space is echoing with sound. A long, long time. Damn it. How do they have that kind of power? It's the ability given by the giant Mosquito. I didn't expect him to reach this point. Chase. A figure in the subspace, with a strong threatening aura, approached the two fleeing figures. The two figures were shaky. But they did not fall. Even the steps didn't stop. Dad, are you okay? Don't say your dad can't do it. Even if your kid can't do it, your dad is okay. Blood spilled from the corner of Jiarong's mouth, and his eyes became serious. He also seemed to have returned to the prosperous years. Although he rebelled against his parents back then, it was precisely because of his rebellion that he had much more experience than Jia 11. He also has experience in fighting. Don't hold on. If it doesn't work, I'll come next time. When Jia 11 saw her father's expression, not only was she not relaxed, but she became even more worried. The existences chasing them were actually two masters of subspace talent. And it's still galaxy level. This is so frustrating. Their strength is only at the venerable level, and the protective power is not around them. Facing the strength of the galaxy level, they are like a turtle in a urn, with no power to resist. Fortunately, some kind of power carried by the two was automatically activated to protect them from escaping. These two Geo family members have their own unique powers, which we have already guessed. Now that the use of subspace has reduced the threat of that power, you and I are also injured. Next, leave it to that adult. The two galaxy classes, who were also seriously injured due to the energy sealed by the two Jia Yans on their children and grandchildren, gradually slowed down their pursuit. They have been hunting down two direct descendants of the Geo family for several hours. Gradually, the last trump cards of the two people were revealed. Although they were severely injured, surprisingly they did not die. It shows that their attainments in subspace are not weak either. Otherwise, in normal space, the Geo family members who exploded with Jia Yan's power could even be killed by the galaxy level. Now that the energy from the two of them has probably been consumed, they stopped chasing. They didn't catch up. Could it be that they were too injured and gave up? Jia 11 was in the subspace, facing a lot of distortions, and her eyes became surprised. Although he is at the venerable level, he is just a first-time venerable. In the three-dimensional subspace, he is almost torn to pieces by the power of the subspace. Jiarong, on the other hand, was seriously injured. It was a sign of his perseverance that he did not fall into a coma. If the enemy doesn't pursue them, the father and son can emerge to the normal space. No. They didn't give up. Jiarong's expression became even more ugly. As someone with some war experience, he knew that since the enemy was willing to send out galaxy-class weapons for his father and son, he would definitely not give up on this matter lightly. Before the outcome could be decided, the two galaxy-level players chose to give up, indicating that their father and son would face a more dangerous situation next. What? I didn't give up. Jia 11 was stunned. Before he could say anything, a surging energy struck in front of the father and son, interrupting his words. It also dispelled his doubts. No need to ask. The invasion of this power made him understand why the two galaxy-level pursuers did not continue. Because something more terrifying is coming. This. Feeling the majestic figure in front of her and the overwhelming aura that stirred up chaos in every space, Jia 11 felt a bitter smile hang on her face and immediately solidified. This is too much of a joke. Unexpectedly. They were just chasing us father and son, but they actually sent out, domain lord level. Hey, are we father and son worth it? It's no wonder that the expressions of the father and son immediately turned deathly gray. In this area, including around the Orion Arm and the Great Spiritual Domain, the Domain Lords are all absolute top masters. Unlike the central star field of the galaxy, where the Territory Lord level may only be a local monster, here, The territory lord level almost represents a giant. The strength is earth-shattering. The kind that makes people feel hopeless. At this moment, such a domain lord level aura appeared in front of the two father and son. Just the sweep of the self-centered artistic conception made their breathing stagnant and almost suffocated. Son. After all, Jiarong is more worldly. As a victor, he had been to the Northern Territory, where several territory lords had received him. Therefore, he was relatively familiar with the momentum in front of him, and his strength was much stronger than Jia 11's, so he tolerated it. His expression gradually returned to normal, as if the person who blocked them was not a domain lord, but a master with similar strength to him. Under the playful gaze of the creature that was more than 20 kilometers long, Jiarong gently threw it out, causing Jia 11 to crash directly into the shallow layer of subspace. You run away, Daddy will stop him. Dad, you. Jia 11 was anxious and was about to use his power to fly back, but when he met Jiarong's eyes, he fell silent. In such a situation, it would really not be helpful for him to stay. So with an extremely painful expression on his face, Jia 11 wisely chose to keep silent. An astonishing full-force aura of the venerable level erupted from his feet, and he escaped into the subspace behind him, trying to enter the normal space through the shallow layer. At the same time, Jiarong raised his head without changing his expression. Face to face with the powerful monster who was joking. Do you think he can escape this way? Are you looking down on me too much? Only then did the domain lord level make a sound casually. He wasn't worried that the little guy could escape. Such a slow speed seemed like slow motion in his eyes. No matter how much he escaped and entered the normal space, it was just an object that he could easily capture after grabbing Jiarong in front of him. How will you know if you can escape if you don't try, besides? Jiarong took a deep breath. Of course, there is no air in subspace, and even in the normal starry sky, there is no air to be sucked in. He is just doing this habitual action. It means he is really going to fight to the death. Perhaps it is one of the rare opportunities in life to fight to the death. Senior, it's not certain whether you can go after my son again. Oh. The domain master was stunned. His eyes became strange. The heir of the great master on the opposite side was a little too confused about the strength of the territory lord level. You know, he is a domain lord. Logically speaking, the weight and strength of a domain lord level should be understood best by those born in such a family. Except for the same level or higher. Invincible without human power. It's useless to come to the galaxy level, let alone a mere venerable level. If the two people in front of him were not the descendants of the legendary powerful person, he would not even be able to look at them if he encountered them. Haha, little guy, I'm looking forward to your performance. The domain lord smiled lightly, and then, his claws were seen approaching Jiarong at some point. The claws, which were several kilometers long, almost reached Jiarong's body. At the same time, Jiarong finally reacted. You must know that the opponent's body is dozens of kilometers long, and the distance between them just now was more than 100 kilometers, but in an instant, the opponent was close to Jiarong's eyes. The speed is so fast that even the eyes can't keep up. As expected, Jiarong showed a moment of shock. But the shock didn't last long, and his expression moved. In his body, a power that did not belong to him suddenly erupted. Groan. I saw that power, showing a strange blue color, coming out from an unknown space inside the body, and then slowly transformed into a human figure, and as soon as this figure appeared, it expanded like a balloon. It turned into a phantom that was dozens of kilometers long, and he punched back the attacking claws. Within the entire subspace, an overwhelming aura of strong men was revealed. Even Jia 11, who had flown into the subspace, was blown out of the subspace in one breath by this force, making him scream in fright. The domain lord level master's face changed wildly, and he couldn't help but take 2 steps back due to the huge force. Then he raised his eyes sharply and looked at the shadow. He is exactly the image of an earthly man with an expressionless face. And his appearance is not that of Jiarong, but another earthly human who looks more ordinary. However, to be able to form such a shadow, it is absolutely impossible to be as ordinary as it seems on the surface. Ah, Grandpa. Outside the subspace, Jia 11 used her family's subspace talent to see clearly the towering, mountain-like shadow on the 3rd floor of the subspace through the layers of space. That was the figure of his grandfather Jia Yan, whom he had seen many times. Of course he knows that the image of the earthly grandfather is just a clone of his true identity, but this does not prevent him from treating this image as his true appearance. Call. On the 3rd floor of the subspace, Jiarong let out a long sigh. He knew that he had made the right bet again. His father had done something similar to him on more than one occasion. He had borrowed this power several times during the battle with the Orion Arm and the battle at the Genius Academy. It's a bit embarrassing to say that he once swore not to use his father's power again to prove that he was an adult. Pity. Backfired. His strength is not strong enough, at least not enough to protect his son. At this important moment of life and death, he still needs protection from his father. Roll. At the same time, the towering figure of the earthly man silently looked at the domain lord in front of him, who was shaken away by the backlash. He had a powerful aura and shouted softly. Being glanced at by this person with lightning eyes, the other party suddenly took 2 steps back. The shadow of a famous tree. The opponent's strength made him wary. Although it is obvious that this is not the real body, but a clone. But he still chose to distance himself. Damn it, those 2 guys have already used up all the backhands in the father and son. I didn't expect that there is still such power hidden. This domain lord's eyes became evasive. He was observing the strength of this phantom. He had resisted his own power just now. But what he just did was just a casual blow. He believed that if he was truly at the venerable level, let alone a casual blow, even his intimidating look could shock the opponent to death. What he didn't expect was that such an earth-shattering shadow erupted from Jiarong's body. Blocked his casual blow. He couldn't guarantee whether this phantom could be more powerful. If he could be more powerful, he would also be in danger. It turns out that His Excellency Jia Yan has met you in person. In this area, no one knows how powerful the Territory Lord is. Even this Territory Lord only knows that the Territory Lord is the powerful level, but he is also unclear about the gap between him and the Territory Lord. Therefore, in your words, you still put yourself and the other party on the same level. If he were in the central star field of the Milky Way, then an ordinary domain lord would definitely call Jia Yan Senior or Sir when meeting him. The shadow didn't answer. This made the other party have some thoughts again. The inability to hold a conversation shows that this is not a clone-level power phantom. If it were not a clone, the energy on it would definitely not be much. He wanted to try again. Otherwise, after so much preparation and such a big battle, there is nothing gained in the end. For him, it is a waste of effort, and the gain outweighs the loss. This senior. At this time Jiarong spoke. I don't know why Senior led those galaxy-level masters to chase our father and son, but I believe that Senior has some misunderstandings. How about this? I will control the power that my father has left in me so that he will not fight with you. How about you just retreat now? If you are willing to retreat, our Geo family will let this matter go by the wayside and will never hold you accountable. You're thinking too much, Junior. How respected is the Territory Lord level in this area? If the Shadow himself is here, he may choose to bow his head a little, but he is only facing the venerable level. Even if the Shadow is protecting him, he will still. How do you choose to be threatened? The other party thrust his body again. In an instant, an oncoming hurricane turned Jiarong's face blue due to subconscious stimulation. He knew that if he faced an attack of this level, Not to mention a single blow, even this momentum would be able to defeat his entire willpower. But someone stood in his way. Find the book garden. Nearly 100 years ago, the person he kept saying he wanted to surpass and made him regret. And it's just a shadow. Jiarong didn't know what his expression was. Looking up into the sky, the phantom raised its fist with a rigid expression and fiercely clashed with the giant monster of more than 20 kilometers that flashed to the side. A loud noise like a thunderbolt came from the clear sky. Resounded throughout heaven and earth. The two figures separated in an instant. Jiarong's expression changed a little. Seeing the figure above him covering the sky, he collapsed more than half in an instant. 1 second to remember. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3153. Sure enough, it's just a pretense. The strength doesn't reach the Domain Lord level at all. After finishing the monster, the Domain Lord's expression turned ferocious. Jiarong and Jia 11, who were outside the subspace, suddenly looked ugly. No matter how strong Jia Yan is, he is still not a cabbage at the Domain Lord level. Even Jia Yan's main clone method can only be used against the Domain Lord level on certain levels after possessing the power of the formation. However, the backup strength left to our children and grandchildren in the early years simply cannot do this. The calm clone, even though it was blasted into two halves, still had an unhurried mood. He lowered the remaining half of his body. I saw a gentle aura surrounding Jiarong. Before another earth-shattering offensive from the Domain Lord level arrived, Jiarong's whole body flashed. It actually appeared hundreds of kilometers away. As fast as lightning. Another burst of breath shot to the outer edge of the subspace, also enveloping Jia 11. Where to escape? The Territory Lord level's eyes were about to burst when the attack failed, and he couldn't believe that with his true body, he could not stop this mere force. Are the late-level powers of the Territory Lord really so terrifying? He didn't believe it, so he was fully prepared, turned into an afterimage, and chased the nearest Jiarong. Jiarong felt everything was being pulled behind him at a lightning speed. And he gritted his teeth and noticed from the corner of his eye that his son Jia 11, who had just tried his best to escape from the subspace, was being coerced by the power emanating from his body and entered the subspace again, fighting with his side. Gather quickly. This power has no thinking ability at all. Jiarong judged it quickly. This power derived from his father Jia Yan has no judgment at all, or it only has a simple and programmed formulaic idea of protecting his family. In the situation just now, the other half of the force should have been allowed to take his son Jia 11 and flee elsewhere. But it's too late to say anything now. Puff. The two forces come together. The Domain Lord behind him really couldn't keep up with the remaining half of Jia Yan's energy. Don't worry, your grandfather's power also has subdimensional abilities, he can't catch up. Jiarong looked behind him, and finally realized that compared to the Domain Lord level powerhouse, this force might not be as powerful, but its subspace speed was not comparable to that of the other party. That's good. Jia 11 nodded calmly. The changes just now are like a rabbit and a falcon, even his father Jiarong is a mess, let alone him. At this moment in silence, I just want to be safe and concentrate on practicing. Because there was no strong threat, over the years, he only thought about living and drinking. He was not a playboy, but he was not a hard-working person either. Today made him see the reality clearly. Even with such a majestic grandpa, there are still people who dare to sneak attack and arrest their father and son. In this world, if one has no strength, one is always in danger. When it's safe, I will definitely ask Grandpa how to become stronger. Jiarong was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, "Your talent is better than my father." As long as you calm down and work hard, in the future I will not only be comparable to your grandfather, but at least be better than your father. TCH, I'd be discouraged if I'm better than you. I'm better than those Orion arm masters. Galaxy level, you really dare to think about it? Jiarong had already seen clearly the gap between the levels of strong men, and couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. Even though their family has grandfather genes, this is not the decisive factor. The gap is still there. Jia 11 said nothing. What he wants to say is not the galaxy level, but to reach the territory lord level, but if he says this, his father will definitely say that he is too ambitious. That's right, how can it be so easy to cultivate to the level of domain lord level strength behind you? Jia 11 closed her eyes to rest uncomfortably. Grandpa, why did he become so strong? The reason why the Jia family gradually became less diligent. In fact, there is a reason. The first few generations are the ones that have just exploded. Before they have formed a family background and family spirit, it is unlikely that ordinary forces or families will slack off. But the Jia family has developed that tendency. The reason is simple. That is, as the strongest member of the family, the one with the most mysterious identity and the strangest transformation, Jia Yan, also commonly known as the evolution beast giant Mosquito, is simply too strong. The progress is almost too much. The Jia family really couldn't see the slightest possibility of getting close to this person. As a result, everyone gradually developed a mentality of slacking off. After decades of hard work, they have reached the level of the venerable. However, the speed at which that person has become stronger in the past few decades is dozens, no, hundreds or thousands of times faster than that of his family members. Facing such a person, do you have any ambition left to speak of? My mentality has long since collapsed. When Jia 11 first came of age, she also had a lot of fighting spirit. But after practicing hard for a period of time, his progress was praised as a genius by countless people. However, when he opened his grandfather's history document on becoming stronger, the desperate rocket-like speed on it made him silent. So Jia 11 also began to sink. You can't escape. That power has obviously weakened, and you can't hold on for much longer. You two, I just want to invite you two to our alliance as guests. Why do you force me to use force? Stop it now. We still have room for discussion. If I lose my strength again, I will inevitably suffer physical pain later. The shouts that came from behind were turned on deaf ears by the two Jia family members. They knew that the power around them was indeed gradually dissipating. It was only a matter of time before he was caught. But the honor of being members of the Jia family prevented them from even raising their hands to surrender. Strength can be weak, but surrender is shameful. It's embarrassing for parents. The pride that has been hidden in Jiarong's heart for a long time actually still exists, but it has become hidden because of his age and experience. His son Jia 11, on the other hand, was young and vigorous. At this time, he did not reply to the other party's quarrel, and he was already quite dignified. Jiarong looked back calmly. Even if the speed slows down, the other party is not a being with subspace talent. After catching up to the fifth subspace, the speed has already slowed down, and the distance between the two is about 100 kilometers. Your Excellency, we father and son don't know where you want to invite us, but what I want to say is that there is no airtight wall in the world. If my father knows about this matter, you and other forces must be difficult to support in my father's hands, no matter how powerful they are. It's been too long, please don't make a mistake. Ha ha ha, now that we have done this, we won't think about this. Please think about your own safety, His Highness Jiarong. I will give you 10 breaths. If you don't stop, I will be really angry. The other party is having a hard time. In the fifth dimensional subspace, for him who is not a subspace talent, it is already a bit too much. Jiarong remained calm. and the domain lord slowly counted the numbers. Finally, the countdown came to the last number. As the number ended, the opponent's whole person became gloomy, and some kind of shocking momentum surged up, and the speed suddenly increased. At the same time, as if sensing something, an amazing aura emerged from Jia 11's body. Since Jia Rong has the aura left by Jia Yan in his body, as Jia Yan's very optimistic grandson, how could he not have the means he left in his body? This surge of energy emerged from the pendant Jia Yan handed to Jia 11. Whoosh! This power is even greater. It was definitely not at the domain lord level, but the speed of the two people's escape increased out of thin air. Just enough to cope with the full speed of hunting down the domain lord. Damn it! The expression of the territory lord behind suddenly became extremely ugly. An indescribable feeling of loss came over me. As the domain lords of this area, each of them is confident and thinks that they are powerful. Suddenly facing a so-called lower-level domain lord, they didn't believe how much stronger the other party could be than themselves. But today he saw it. The real person from the lower level of the territory lord didn't show up, and he didn't even reveal his clone method yet. He actually let two weak people escape in his hands for so long with only energy methods. This allowed him to see his position clearly. Compared with a lower-level domain lord, he is still very weak. But, even if it is weak, most of the work has been done, and it is impossible to give up just now. He gritted his teeth, and even more astonishing will appeared in his eyes, and his speed increased in subspace. I don't believe how long you backup guys can hold on. The trees want to be still, but the wind doesn't stop. In this world, no matter how powerful you are bound to get into trouble. Probably, this is the price. Subspace is extremely deep. It is so deep that few people in the Milky Way today can set foot. But there is a long line of fire, stretched into a line, soaring in it. Jia Yan was sighing. He just wants to return, help his relatives and friends improve their strength, and then engage in some trade to make a little money. Unexpectedly, someone was staring at him again. It is obvious that his strength is already almost invincible in this area. Why are there always stubborn people? Don't understand. Also, think about it this way, it is good that I have been working hard to cultivate my own strength, but once something happens, there is no one trustworthy around me. He reflected on himself. Other lower-level territory lords, such as elders like Ji Qiao and Chu, may not be surrounded by powerful people, but if they really want to give orders, many senior territory lords can be laughed at. But what about Jia Yan? It's very embarrassing. Not to mention senior domain masters. There is not even a domain lord level. The most powerful subordinate turned out to be Leda, who had just reached the middle level of the galaxy. He might rely on the power of the formation and the means given by him to be able to compete with the senior domain lord, but that was still based on the premise of his own strength. This is a bit wrong. Could it be that if something happens in the future, I will have to run and break my legs like this every time? No, next time this happens again, I really don't want to go back and forth in such pain again. It's so painful. Jia Yan looked at one of his front feet. With the help of Azure Defense, it was not completely burned to ashes by the flames. But a quarter of the foot turned into coke. It really hurts. The point is, this pain has no end in sight. We have been flying for more than 6 hours now, plus the loss of speed due to taking the wrong route and adjusting direction, etc., and we still have about 2 to 3 hours before arrival. And those brats? The strength is too weak. Every time something happens, my grandfather, an old man, has to rescue me. It's really unreasonable. Jia Yan's physical pain turned into anger. Cursing seemed to give him the motivation to persevere. Otherwise, he will feel the pain of the original mutation all the time. Sooner or later, he will not be able to hold on and fly out of the 13th level space. Once you fly out, If you are 1 second earlier, on the 12th or 11th floor, it will take 100 times longer to fly, and it will be useless to save people. Even when the power of the formation is released, it instantly becomes shattered. This twisted power must be so terrifying. In other words, it's too scary for my body to be able to hold on. While flying, Jia Yan looked for something to distract himself. These gadgets increased his tolerance for pain a lot. Also, who is it that comes to trouble me again? It can't be other powerful people, right? But, it's also possible. This star really wants to retire. Jia Yan thought. He was around the Orion arm, and I can't say that everyone knew it, but he did so many things. He also defeated several powerful forces in the Northern Territory. No matter how famous he is, he must let all the powerful figures in the surrounding forces know about it. You dare to attack him? Other lower-level territory lords, such as elders like Ji Qiao and Chu, may not be surrounded by powerful people, but if they really want to give orders, many senior territory lords can be laughed at. But what about Jia Yan? It's very embarrassing. Not to mention senior domain masters. There is not even a domain lord level. The most powerful subordinate turned out to be Leda, who had just reached the middle level of the galaxy. He might rely on the power of the formation and the means given by him to be able to compete with the senior domain lord, but that was still based on the premise of his own strength. This is a bit wrong. Could it be that if something happens in the future, I will have to run and break my legs like this every time? No, no, next time this happens again, I really don't want to go back and forth in such pain again. It's so painful. Jia Yan looked at one of his front feet. With the help of Azure Defense, it was not completely burned to ashes by the flames. But a quarter of the foot turned into coke. It really hurts. The point is, this pain has no end in sight. Now I have been flying for more than 6 hours, including the loss of speed due to taking the wrong route and adjusting direction. There are still about 2 to 3 hours before arrival. And those brats? The strength is too weak. Every time something happens, my grandfather, an old man, has to rescue me. It's really unreasonable. Jia Yan's physical pain turned into anger. Cursing seemed to give him the motivation to persevere. Otherwise, he will feel the pain of the original mutation all the time. Sooner or later, he will not be able to hold on and fly out of the 13th level space. Once you fly out, if you are 1 second earlier, on the 12th or 11th floor, it will take 100 times longer to fly, and it will be useless to save people. Even when the power of the formation is released, it instantly becomes shattered. This twisted power must be so terrifying. Bookmark. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3154. Are my two powers already like candles in the wind? The ones who are chasing the two of them are really incredible, but no matter what, it's a good thing to hold on. Sensing the direction, Jia Yan said nothing. With one step, he suddenly changed his position and crashed out of the 13-level space. He entered the 12th floor with a light body, and aimed at an increasingly clear direction, heading straight for the place where his own power was moving rapidly. The Geo family is exaggerating. The breath behind him got closer and closer. The two combined energies that protected the two seemed to be faintly collapsing. After being chased just now, he had to have another head-on confrontation with the opponent. As a result, the power of protection has melted away like spring water and gradually dried up. You and the so-called Geo family are just relying on one person. Moreover, it is not certain whether this person has a deep blood relationship with you and the others. Gee, it seems that the story in this story is enough to write a book. The other party smiled sarcastically. Jiurong snorted coldly, you don't need to say anything about my Geo family's affairs. The two sides were already very close. Jiurong and Jia 11, who had been watched for a long time, felt a little relaxed. If the opponent was planning to kill them, they would have done so with thunderous force the last time they got close. But the other party didn't move, which meant that he wanted to capture his father and son alive. Really? I don't need to say more. In fact, I really want to say, is your so-called protector Jia Yan, just like you two father and son, an exaggerated existence? The so-called lower-level powerful people are just a realm that's not flashy. You. Hearing this, Jia Rong's expression changed, and Jia 11 flew up from the floor where the energy evolved independently, as if he chose someone to eat. In the Jia family, there are several reverse scales. One is naturally the issue of the safety of the family members. This is an unshakable foundation. Every time someone wants to harm someone in the family, they will often face the concentrated firepower of the Jia family, using all the energy they can use to defeat the opponent. The second is the issue of Jia Yan's identity and face, which cannot be slandered. The second point is too sensitive. In Earth human society, it has reached the point where ordinary people are vaguely aware of it and aliens are not allowed to ask. When someone asks, the people on Earth fall out. Now, in front of their father and son, the territory lord level spoke out openly. Incidentally, he also slandered Jia Yan's strength. Jia Rong's expression was ugly, and Jia 11 was even more angry. If it weren't for their lack of strength, they would have rushed forward to fight this guy. But they didn't. Because it's just a death wish. The domain lord level expert looked indifferent. While saying these words, he observed the energy circle that was escaping. He knew that this energy circle had now fallen under Jia Rong's control. And because of one sentence, the energy circle became vaguely slower, indicating that the owner who controlled it was in ups and downs, and was a little turbulent. I know there is a play. He struck again while the iron was hot. Ha ha ha, why are you in such a hurry? Have you thought about the problem that your father and son are nothing like Jia Yan? You don't need to be nervous about this, because everyone knows it by heart. After all, no one is blind. You father and son look like this, but your so-called patriarch Jia Yan looks like that. Is it the same species? Ha ha ha. Damn it. Jia 11 could no longer hold back, her face turned red and her neck became thick. But Jia Rong put an arm on his body and let out a long sigh. Don't be angry, it's just the other party's conspiracy. The domain master had already chased the falling energy body to the top of the energy circle, and looked at the two father and son protected in the energy circle with a condescending look. Conspiracy? No, no, I am just telling you a fact. On the contrary, your own family is hiding from others. Just like the blind family wearing the emperor's new clothes, they look happy on the outside. In fact, you have no bottom, right? Then Jia Yan, and you, are they related by blood? Jia 11 was furious and wanted to rush out of the energy circle. But Jia Rong was completely suppressed in his hands, unable to move at all. Others don't understand the truth, and Jia Rong, who is Jia Yan's son, doesn't understand. He and his son Jia 11 have such a thing as blood relationship, and the relationship is very deep. But the other person's next words shocked his mind. By the way, Jia Rong, right? Your mother gave birth to you, but she said you were the son of Jia Yan. It seems that Jia Yan did not recognize your mother and son quickly, and you and Jia Yan are completely different. Could it be that, is it true that your mother, Hong Xing, cheated on her and then found Jia Yan to be her successor? Then he is really very generous. Boom. I saw this energy circle suddenly gathering an earth-shattering force, and a palm turned into a human hand, hitting the domain master figure in the sky. Under Jia Rong's rage, this energy circle formed a complementary effect with him. At least the energy circle is a pure energy body. It originally had no moves or intelligence. With Jia Rong's control, it suddenly became more agile. Snort. The Domain Lord level smiled ferociously and stretched out his claws, annihilating both of them with this energy. The energy circle was once again missing a big chunk. There was a strong look of pride in his eyes. Without such a force, the speed at which the energy circle took the two father and son to escape was no longer as fast as him. Now he only needed to dissipate the energy properly to capture the father and son alive. The next big thing will definitely require the help of father and son. After all, that Jia Yan who may not be that powerful in his eyes still needs to be guarded against. After all, he had heard that many Domain Lord level powerhouses near the Orion Arm had fallen into its hands. Especially the head of the Bai family, whom he had met before. At that time, the White Dolphin was not yet at the senior Domain Lord level, but he suppressed him easily. This shows that Jia Yan, who can kill the White Dolphin that has been promoted to the senior Domain Lord level, must be stronger than him. But how much stronger it is up to his own imagination. Anyway, as long as these two Jia Yan juniors are controlled, they will be more confident in what they do next. Thinking of this, the Domain Lord level claws continued to fall, gradually weakening the energy circle protecting the two Jia family members with one blow. Not good. Jiarong's expression changed again while inside the energy circle shield. It's all my fault, Dad. If the shield is going to break in a while, I will use the last bit to take you away. I will hold him in place. Dad, let's go together, or we'll all die here. Jia 11 naturally didn't want to. Fool, if he wanted to kill us, he would have done it a long time ago. He must have wanted to capture us alive to threaten your grandfather. When you leave later, I will let you leave even if I risk my life. Jiarong sends a message to Jia 11. The Jia family is more like a family inheritance in this regard. That is, in terms of the sound transmission method, I got Jia Yan's true transmission. After all, it is just an encryption method. People who don't understand it just don't understand it. Even if their strength is much higher than them, if they don't understand cryptography, they can't do it in a short time. Time to know what they talked about. Hey, what are the two father and son talking about? Look, your turtle shell is about to burst. Stop wasting your brain cells, because it will be too late to think about anything. Kaka. I saw that above the energy circle, the energy of the fist could no longer be transformed, and only a thick layer of round eggshell-like energy was formed. But now, this energy has become more and more cracked under the attack of the opponent's huge claws. The rupture is just around the corner. Break. Soon, the Domain Lord found the opportunity and struck down. This strike was as powerful as a rainbow and extremely firm, and would definitely be able to break open the turtle's shell. Walk. At the same time, Jiarong also roared loudly, and used part of his energy control mind to push his son out of the energy circle. At that time, he will let his son carry the greatest amount of father's energy and escape as quickly as possible. And he himself will mediate with the other party. At the last moment, he had already made up his mind. The Jia family would rather die than give in. He will self-destruct and make all the other parties' calculations come to nothing. Boom. The movements on both sides were very fast, but when the Domain Lord saw Jiarong's movements, a disinterested sneer appeared on his expression. Just a venerable level. In the eyes of the Domain Lord, any calculation or struggle they make is meaningless. He will catch Jiarong. And Jia 11, he will not let it go either. If I let you escape, wouldn't it be in vain for me, the Domain Lord level? While he was grinning ferociously, the claws of his other hand had already made a lightning-fast clawing motion. Domain Lord level eyesight, movement speed, and all other advantages are not lies. In his eyes, the self-righteous plans of the two venerable level people could be broken with a simple effort. Puff. Jia 11 was separated from the power of an energy circle by Jiarong, and flew directly out of the energy circle. And above the head, the power from the Domain Lord level was like a mountain. One hand broke the energy circle, and the other hand, with quick eyesight and quick hands, fished for Jia-11 who had just broken through the energy circle and fled. This. Jia-Rong suddenly felt despair. Sure enough, his ability is simply not enough to perform small tricks in the palm of a domain lord level. Because any little action you make is meaningless. The reason why they were able to escape for so long just now was simply because they each had a force left by their father Jia Yan in their bodies. Jia-11's side was even worse. As soon as he flew out of the energy circle, his whole body was directly exposed to the pressure of the domain lord who was close to Chi-Chi originally in the energy circle. He was filtered by the energy circle. Although this pressure was strong, it had little impact on him. Now facing the pressure of the mighty domain lord level, his whole face instantly turned pale, he was sweating profusely, and he couldn't move. The force behind him tried its best to send him away, but there was no extra strength to protect him from the oppression of the force. Seeing that both father and son had miscalculated, they were about to fall into the hands of their enemies. The whole scene happened in an instant. It's like entering a frozen picture. Everything comes to a standstill. Thoughts are normal. The three people present felt as if their brains were filled with water. They were moving extremely slowly, but they were all extremely horrified. Jia-Rong thought this was the opponent's method again, but when he looked up, he saw the domain lord level attacking with two claws. He also looked shocked at this time. He immediately understood that this was not the other party's method. But who? Can even a domain lord level be firmly imprisoned? Subsequently, Jia-Rong saw it. Facing the depths of subspace. A figure standing in the light of fire, as if bathed in a sea of fire, walked with elegant and indifferent steps, slowly and firmly approaching from the deepest subspace. Jia-Rong was shocked when he saw that familiar figure. Then his eyes became moist. Jia-11, who belatedly realized, followed his father's gaze and looked over there, and then his expression froze. "Grandfather!" he yelled, but because his movements were too slow, his words were like a long, drawn-out sound, which was very strange. "Grandfather!" "What, Grandpa? You are about to die at the hands of me, so you call Grandpa to beg for mercy? That's not right either." The domain lord level strongman who was about to catch the two father and son had a strange expression. Because he was trapped in a certain field, his thinking was greatly affected, even worse than the two juniors of the Geo family. Because this field is aimed at him. This is how, what? He asked slowly, then saw the eyes of the two father and son, vaguely understood something, and wanted to look back. Puff. Go back. The sound is extremely light and crisp. Before the domain lord finished speaking, he felt that the world in front of him was completely turned upside down. The world that seemed to be frozen just now returned to its original state in an instant. The sound became normal, and the speed of the world returned to normal. But he found himself at a loss for words. Then, a familiar body without its head appeared in sight. That body. It seems to be his own. His eyes were dull, and then he saw the huge body in the sea of fire that was walking towards his body. It was a terrifying giant mosquito that was much larger than him. One foot was raised high, as if it had just cut across the neck of his body. This is one strike. It really only takes one hit. Turn out to be. The domain lord level powerhouse suddenly understood with panic in his eyes. It turns out that he is a domain lord who thinks highly of himself. Under this person's methods. Really just a small character who can be killed with one hit. The picture turned completely dark, and his consciousness finally turned into chaos due to the superpower's attack. It was impossible to save him even with his terrible physical condition at the domain lord level. Because of the action. It's a powerful person from the lower level of the territory lord. Instant kill. This territory lord level can be said to be benevolent and benevolent. He just wanted to find trouble, and he wanted to compete head-on with the so-called lower-level powers and measure your abilities. Now it is considered a complete success. But there is a fly in the ointment. That's what he sadly realized. The gap between me and others is too big. With the huge gap in strength, a domain lord like me couldn't even say my name and the power behind it before I could say it out loud. The blows were all blocked in the mouth. It's so embarrassing. This is the last remaining consciousness of this person. Grandfather. Father, why are you here? Bookmark.